Those of you who cannot see me, please log out and then log in again. All right, so can we great. So I'll be speaking to you first, and I'll be introducing today's session and then also bringing in the first panel today. My name is Dr. Surabhi Modi Sahai. I am the CEO at Clat Possible. Clat Possible, as you all have seen our video just now, and as you all know, we have been in the business of sending you to national law universities for over 13 years now. And we have been at it for a long time. We have seen scores and scores of young law aspirants get into their dream law schools, make their dream careers. In fact, today I will be very happy and proud to introduce some of our panelists who are Clat Possible students, some of them who are mentoring students along with other great stuff that they all are doing. So every year we bring in this National Law School Awareness Summit, and we have on our panel members some of our old students who are either studying in law schools or who are working somewhere. And this law summit keeps on growing bigger and bigger because of these students that we had mentored long ago. We are very proud and happy that all of these students never fail to come back and mentor other students along the way. They are very, very magnanimous in their services, and they always are ready to help at a drop of a hat, at even a short notice, and are always available to Clat Possible current students or law aspirants, and never shy away from helping them. So that is how we are able to build this summit bigger and get to you the best information, the most reliable information on national law universities. So along with me, my entire Clat Possible team is here today. Many of them are on the back end. They will be helping you with getting a smooth interface in these times where we do the National Law Summit. This is the first ever webinar, a big webinar on the national law universities. We usually do it at different venues during this time of the year and different cities. But today we are connecting with almost all the cities through this network. And we would also request you to check your connection. Please check your volume systems. Please ensure nobody in your house is using the internet during this time so that you can get an uninterrupted this thing to the summit. All right. So let me start by now telling you about the plan ahead. So I will be introducing the first panel on why Clat and why law, which will be taken by Mohammad Asadullah Sharif and Akash Joshi. Both of them have done their law from Nalsar University at Hyderabad. After that, we will be bringing in our keynote speakers, Mr. Jaideep Narayan Mathur, who is a senior advocate, and Rahul Agarwal, who is an advocate at the Allahabad bench. Rahul is from NLSIU Bangalore and Harvard Law School. And finally, we will be bringing you some students from national law universities, two bright, brilliant girls from NLSIU Bangalore, and Shashwat Chandra, who is from NLU Delhi. So the third panel will talk to you about law school life, and they will also do experience sharing of how they got into law schools and what is it inside of the law school. So we've tried to get in all the third panelists from different years, first year, third year, fifth year, so that you get to know exactly what law school life entails and what are their future plans. So you get to hear it from those who are studying in law schools. I will be basically initiating you into this discussion. I will be looking at some of the queries that you have, and I will also be speaking to those students who are either in class 11th, 12th, or have just done their class 12th. and try to help you out in your dilemma of choosing a career option. All right. So while I am doing this, I will not be able to look at the chat box, but my team here will be scanning your chat for relevant queries, and then the queries will be forwarded to me, and then I'm going to answer your queries. So after every speaker, we will do a short Q&A, and that Q&A will happen through the chat box. So if you put in your questions, we will moderate those questions and take it to the speaker. Thank you so much. Now, when it comes to the world of careers, what I basically notice when I talk to students is not that there is a dearth of choice, but the fact that they are always in a dilemma as to what it is that they are looking at. Many of you are probably already studying for law. Quite a few of you I recognize from the chat box are already my students, and you are preparing for the Clat exam. Yet, there are so many times during your preparation or otherwise that you do not really know what is it that you're really looking at. Yes, you are preparing for a high-flying career option, but what happens most of the time is that these career choices turn into massive confusables, which you try very hard to resolve, which you try very hard to resolve with your parents, with your mentors. So today I would try to get you all to try to address those choices, face them, and yet come out with a solution as to what it is that you can take up. How can you manage this huge dilemma that is there in front of you? Many of you may be sailing in two boats, probably preparing for IITs, probably preparing for medicine. Some of you may have started with IITs, started with medicine, and then along the way decided that you need to do law. Some of you may have already signed up for NDA. So is this a bad thing? Is this confusion legitimate? Can you still get into a good college by preparing for too many things? What is the right thing to do? How to get rid of this dilemma? So let me try to address some of these things first. So fact of the matter, I do not know if you recognize the athlete in the picture, but I'll come to that later. The first thing is, what are my options? Now, these options are calculated on the basis of what you have studied in class 11th and 12th. These options are calculated on the basis of what your strengths are. These options are calculated on the basis of how you can reach your goal. That brings us to the point as to what is your goal? Where do you see yourself? What is it? Do you see yourself working at a desk? Do you see yourself doing something more adventurous? Very basic questions. So these questions don't have to be very, very specific or precise, that I see myself as the biggest lawyer in criminal law. Maybe you don't know all of this just now. But we have to start with whatever little that you know. And then the other legit question is my class 12 score important? Now we are already living in some of the most uncertain times today. We do not know whether we will have the remaining class 12th exams happening or not. We do not know when the next competitive exams are going to happen. So if I had taken this workshop last year, I would have said, no, class 12 scores are not important if you're writing entrance tests. But I might want to retract that answer right now. Do my subjects stop me from exploring other options? So what type of subjects am I studying? So this whole thing where you have to balance your boards, where you have to balance a career decision, how do these things put together act? So these are some of the questions that this Law Summit is going to answer. These are some of the questions that even if we don't have answers to, we will know how to deal with not having answers. So this is what you have to work with. Your options, what are your strengths? What is that goal that you have? Can you reach that goal through different routes? Can you change your subjects now? Can you change your career now? Maybe you have studied science. Maybe you are wanting to become a doctor. Now things are not the same anymore after 1 year or after 2 years. So is this a bad thing? No, that's not a bad thing. So these are some of the facts that we have to deal with. And trust me, there is no correct answer. There is only a correct way to manage this much confusion. There is nothing wrong with the choices that you have. There is nothing wrong with your confusion. The only thing that we need to do is make a path through this confusion. How can we make a path where this confusion does not overwhelm us? Then let's come back to this picture. Let me open the chat box. Let me ask you, do you know the athlete in the picture? And what is so special about the athlete? Is there anyone out there who knows the athlete from the panelists, from the children? Yes, I got some answers from here. That's correct. Sagrika Lahiri, Piyush Rangra, Shwetab, Deepika. So what is so unique about this athlete? Yes, what is so unique about Sargi Bubka? What's so unique about him? So he didn't exactly play for Russia, but yes, he played for the Soviet Union. He has broken his record many times. But what happened to him? The problem was that he was considered to have some sort of tough luck with the Olympics. While he was a world champion for 7 consecutive times, he was not ever able to, except for once, which is the Seoul Olympics where he participated, but he had a very bad record with Olympics. So when it mattered, like the Olympics, either the Soviet Union backed out or he got an injury. So when it came to Olympics, this person, in spite of holding the world record so many times, when it came to Olympics, you know, the Olympics, the medal was shy. So he did manage to participate in one of them. But this person who was set out on a path to glory, something was always jinxed when it came to the Olympic Games in his long career. So if we do not match our facts together carefully, in spite of having tremendous talent, if we don't have the path clear in front of us, we can go astray. I have seen hundreds and hundreds of students throughout my career, and trust me, your talent can be immense, your skill can be beautiful. But if your career path is not charted out with precision, you know that in a competitive country like ours, things may not fall in place for you in spite of that tremendous amount of talent which you carry. So starting at the right age, dealing with the confusion in the right way is something that I always advocate. The problem is never the confusion. Confusion is good. It always keeps you on your toes. The problem starts when we do not know what to do with it. Right? Then next we come to how to deal with this. So with test prep, with entrance tests, the point is that you have to make it happen once. That's it. To make this point better, I have on screen Sir Roger Bannister, who broke his record once. It did not last more than a month or little more than a month. It was again broken, right? But the point is you have to do it once for yourselves. So cracking entrance test is something which you have to achieve just once. And when it comes to national law universities, you do it just once and you are in a great national law university, ready to start your illustrious career. So an entrance test can be your sub 4-minute mile. They are usually aptitude tests. They do not have any questions on what you study in class 11th and 12th. These aptitude tests test you in English, which is the verbal score, reasoning, basics of maths, and sometimes GK, sometimes no GK, depending on which aptitude test you are taking. But if you are preparing for the law entrance test, which the next panel will be talking to you about, then of course GK and legal reasoning are parts of this entrance test. So when you are preparing for test prep, when you are preparing for an aptitude test, you have to just do it once. One good test and you are into your dream college. And these tests can be achieved with just an aptitude training, which has nothing to do with class 12. So the good thing with entrance tests is that it gives you another opportunity to prove yourself. Your board scores is one opportunity that you get. Unfortunately, all the professional colleges in our country and even across the world do not take your board scores. They take an entrance test. They check for aptitude. That aptitude basically is a test for how you think, what kind of decisions you make. Do you read? Can you infer? Do you have good reasoning skills? So therefore, these skills have to be trained separately. So your boards is one thing, that's one journey that you have to undertake, but the aptitude training journey is the other journey that you have to undertake. These have to run parallelly if you are in a country like India, because here most of us still crack the board exams and at the same time want to crack an entrance test and get into college straight away. We do not really have an option or a concept of taking easy, taking a year's break, taking 2 years break, or working. Here we like to finish our education in one go. So these two journeys you have to undertake together. Then it brings you to the problem of how. So you have to prepare for your boards, as you can see on the screen. You have to prepare for an entrance test for a good college, professional education, if you're looking at one. At the same time, if you are in a school in India, we like our co-curriculars, we like our extracurriculars, not to mention the kind of pressure we have on us with respect to social media, not to mention the pressure we have on us where we have so much of the big list on Netflix, which is waiting to be seen. So we have added a lot of extracurriculars into our lifestyle. You know, that book we have to finish, the Netflix that we have to watch, the list is growing. That means we have to learn to prioritize. Do you recognize the person on screen? So Roger Federer recently underwent an ACL surgery. And you understand ACL, that's the knee surgery that he underwent. And he's a tennis player. So you can imagine what his feet and his knees are. And he is preparing now to get back into tennis again. Right? So Roger Federer's famous line, which is there on his website also says, when you do something best in life, you really don't want to give it up. And for me, that is tennis. So this line is one line which you all have to paste in your bedrooms, on your walls, whichever wall you watch the most. And you have to replace it with something that you really want to do. It could be getting into a dream college. It could be a career that you've thought of for yourself. It could even be a sport. It could be music. I'm not saying it has to be related to studies. But the point is, it will help you to get clarity. It will help you to manage your time better. So in the list that we have drawn here, boards, test prep, I have kept it priority because some years you have to cut down on other stuff and prioritize things that need immediate looking after. So when you are getting into class 12th or even when you are in class 11th, the point is that these two things that are mentioned on the screen deserve your utmost priority. So does it mean you drop co-curriculars or extracurriculars? No, I'm not saying that. All it means is prioritize well, know your strengths, find out what is it that you can do and cannot do. Some of you could be good at multitasking. Do you all understand what multitasking is? Do you all understand what multitasking is? Right, so what is multitasking? Doing multiple tasks in a day, yes. But how does multitasking work? Multitasking does not mean that you have to give equal time to all the tasks. Multitasking means that you have to give adequate time and even more time to some tasks that are high priority. So multitasking is a skill that requires careful planning, good decision making, and very, very diligent amount of effort that you have to put in. So multitasking is not equal time to everything. Multitasking is high priority stuff has to be dealt with first. Time has to be distributed accordingly. And good decisions have to be made to get the best out of all the tasks that you are doing. Now, some of us may be good with this. Some of us may not be good with it. So those of us who are not good with it might want to consider shedding some weight, which means some tasks that you can not do right now because other tasks are more demanding. But those of us who are good with it need to be smart at it and make good decisions so that the high priority tasks do not suffer. So multitasking, everything is actually in your control. I'm not really asking you to follow up a plan or a pattern. All I'm saying is recognize your strength, recognize your confusion. Your confusion, your strength, your options, all are legitimate. There is nothing wrong with anything. Yes, but what you can go wrong is, or where you can go wrong is when you are not doing anything about it, right? So you have to make time, great. So things that you can do or the things that will be helpful right now would be a good timetable, a great mentorship program. The mentor could be anyone. Your mother can be your mentor, your father can be your mentor, either parent, a school mentor. You can get your mentor at your test prep institute. Clat Possible is proud to mentor thousands and thousands of students and help them make these difficult decisions every year. You need to be at it, concerted effort, and you need correct guidance. Correct guidance is the key to all of it, to unlock this immense potential that you have. Good mentorship along the way will help you with the correct guidance. And on your end, you have to have great effort. And with the help of your mentor, when you draw out a good timetable, you have to learn to follow it. So right now is the time that you need to get good help. You need to take that good help. But after that, you have to follow through. Follow through means whatever advice and whatever help that your mentor gives you, you need to work on. So this is how you have to carry forward. Conclusion. Now I'm not using any more pictures. From here onwards is your picture. This is your picture. This has to be your moment. So we are not using any more pictures here now. So everyone has tremendous potential. You need to act like one who will use that potential. Make legitimate goals. Your goal cannot be the same as my goal, and your goal cannot be the same as your friend's goal. No goal is big, no goal is small. Every goal looks different and every goal is time bound. It cannot be a goal going into infinity. So make small time bound goals, starting with next college, then maybe a good internship could be a follow-up goal, then maybe a good placement could be a follow-up goal, then having your own setup could be a follow-up goal. So goals have to be time bound and achievable, matching with your potential. So make small goals that you keep achieving along the way. At every step, look out for good guidance and always have a true mentor by your side. Right now, this is your world, right? You have too many directions. You have too much advice that is coming your way. You have to use your brains to take up one advice, the advice that you trust. Do your research. Come out with the best options available. Do a good research. Then once you have done your research and zeroed in on an option, it could be a test prep institute, it could be a mentorship program, whatever, then stick with it. And then do everything that is possible with that advice to reach to your goals. So of course, there is no picture anywhere. As I said, it has to be your picture, your planning, your research, and dealing with these options that I have just spoken about. The career path, do not expect it to be linear, horizontal, vertical, whatever. It will still come with a lot of ups and downs. Even after you have researched, even after you have got good advice, there will still be a path which is non-linear. There will be highs, there will be lows, but You have to be at it and take it forward. Your job is to make it as linear as possible. So please do not expect everything to fall in place after today. What we are here to give you is good insight. What we are here to give you is a good way to work forward with a plan. So when I was saying confusion is legitimate, I meant it. There is no way that you have to decide today what you want to do, but there is still a way that you can secure your future. So what are the options that we were talking about? Options are, yes, you have to write your class 12 boards well. You must prepare for it. There is no question asked there. B, prepare for a good entrance test. Since all entrance tests are similar, they all ask you the same kind of questions. Enrolling for a good entrance test, maybe right now you think you want to do law, enroll for the law entrance test. When you enroll for the Clat entrance test, you will get a chance to prepare for an aptitude test. If there is any confusion, write many exams. Who's stopping you? There is no need to just write one exam. Write as many exams as you want to. All entrance tests ask you the same questions. So what does it do? It helps you take into your stride all possible options. And once you have cracked some exams, then you can again sit with a mentor and decide which college to join. So if you have an option of taking many exams, why not? It's not as if you're preparing for IIT or medicine that if you're preparing for IIT, you cannot give any other exam. Aptitude training means you can take as many exams as you want. So all law exams, management exams, they are all based on aptitude training. So if you're training for one, invariably you're training for another. So take as many exams if you are still confused. If you are not confused, then great, stick with plan A, but always have a plan B. So it's all about having good plan A, plan B, plan C. If you're truly determined to go into National Law University and you have no room for plan B or plan C, then give it your best. Then be ready to take more chances with it. So in every way possible, all answers are the same. If you are confused, write more exams. This preparation, Clat preparation, allows you to write many exams. If you are not confused, maybe later on you change your mind, still this preparation is good because it will help you write other exams. And if you are truly determined, great, then take more chances with it. Better your scores, better your law school rank. Many people do it. So with all that in mind, you have to plan better. So why is this planning important? Because right now, there is no other way out. You have to plan well to allow for contingencies. You have to plan well so that you have a relaxed mind and you know that if something fails, I have a backup, right? So at Clat Possible, what we help you do is prepare well for an entrance test, constantly motivate you to better your scores. Even in these times, this is how we are continuing with our classes. Our classes have not been interrupted due to any chaos happening outside our world. So we are very happy and proud that we have been able to carry on with our good work. We have some of these options for all those students who want to enroll with us. This is the one-year program. All these details are available on our website as well. The number of hours of lectures, study material, faculty, right? So we have a great learning management system. So whether you are online or offline, you will have no problem accessing any material, accessing any resource. All our online classes have recorded versions which are available on MyZone. That is your account with us. For the 2-year program also, we have designed it for class 11. You have 336 hours of mentorship training in the 2-year program. You have start with fundamentals and then slowly you move on to practice and test series in the final year you have with us. Your attendance tracking, practice sheets, books, everything is available online. And once the lockdown is over, all this will change into offline as well. So if you need any help with our offline centers, this is the list of all our centers. You can access our website, the number, you can call on that number or write to us. And we will be very, very happy to get back to you on any of these fronts. I want to make an announcement, which I will make during the course of this lecture as well. So our diagnostic class, which is a class which you can take for free, like a trial class, is on Tuesday and on Wednesday, a 1-hour class followed by Q&A. So Tuesday, we will be taking up logic and English, and on Wednesday, we will be taking up legal. So you can come in for these trial classes and see whether they make sense to you or not. After that, our batch start for class 11s and for class 12s is happening on 16th May, which is Saturday 6 to 8 and Sunday 10 to 2. Please click on the link on the screen. You can take a screenshot of this screen, and that is the link for on which you will join us. You can also call us or email us if you need access to the classroom or the trial classes. So the link that I've shared is for the trial class. So you can take a screenshot of the screen and save it for later, should you want to join our trial classes. So I'd like to call in Asad, and if there is any relevant question for me. So there is one question that I have been asked, which is what background helps the most for Clat, and what streams in class 11th and 12th matter? So the background that you need for Clat, now the class 11th and 12th stream selection, of course, is another lecture altogether, but I will take it very briefly, this question for you. Now, 11th and 12th stream selection is really not very important for the Clat paper because nothing from 11th and 12th is asked. So what I advise students is to choose subjects that they think they will score more in, and the subjects that they will enjoy doing for 2 years. So mostly that subject choice has to be based on what is most scoring for the student. Since nothing of this is going to matter in the Clat paper, this preparation is entirely different, trust me. Even if you are a pol science student or a history student, it won't make that much of a difference when it comes to Clat preparation, because you have to start from the beginning here. And everything that you need for Clat, we are going to provide you. And you have to do it that way. Because boards is very different from the way Clat or any other aptitude test works. The medium is different. It's a multiple choice question paper. There is a different skill set involved. So I always advise students to take up a program in 11th and 12th where they will score the most. It could even be physics, chemistry, maths if you feel you're good with it, but you don't want to become an engineer. Please take physics, chemistry, maths if you think you will score there. I have many science students who join me, lots and lots of commerce students, and of course, humanities students, first option usually is law or management. So please take subjects. You could take Sanskrit, you could take Hindi, you could take whatever you think you will score in. That's most important. Nothing in 11th, 12th matters when it comes to graduation. Trust me, you have to start from the start. You have to start from scratch. Yes, Asad, any other question? So the English language is extremely important for Clat exam and other aptitude exams. And when it comes to the English language, please understand it is not the spoken language. It is a language which you have to read, understand, and comprehend. Spoken English is not tested in any college in India or even abroad. Whether you can speak well, whether you have good accent, doesn't matter at all. But if you can read and understand what you are reading, that's most important. So as far as the Clat paper is concerned, it's the new pattern Clat paper. It is not going to ask you regular vocabulary or anything. This paper wants you to read, comprehend, and then answer questions. So more than English, let me rephrase it. Reading is a skill which you have to develop, and it can be developed over the course of 2 years if you start doing basic things from today, which is reading newspapers, reading any book you like. So inculcating a taste for reading. So more of this I'm going to discuss in my diagnostic class, which is on Tuesday. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this on Tuesday in my diagnostic class. Please join that. The screen will tell you where you have to come. Yes, the date for Clat can be extended further. Yes, is there any other question? Asad, I'm waiting for you to moderate the questions because there's a lot of. So without taking more of your time, I'm going to come back with all these questions towards the end. I'm going to hand over the stage to Asad and Akash Joshi. They are both graduates of the Nalsar University. I've had the good fortune and privilege of teaching Akash Joshi when he was our student. And now look, he's mentoring my students today. He's been kind enough during the lockdown to help us out. Asad is a bright lawyer from Nalsar. Asad started Clat Gyan, one of the most trusted Clat forums ever, while he was in second year in Nalsar. All through Nalsar, he guided students, and Clat Gyan offered free mentorship, even free papers to students while they were preparing. I know every Clat possible student was on Clat Gyan and every other student as well. Clat Gyan has a cult following and its founder is Mohammad Asadullah Sharif. Asad has joined Clat Possible as the president and is now heading not only the legal vertical, but other academic decisions and managerial decisions when it comes to Clat Possible. So I'm going to hand over the stage to Asad, who will then, I think, further introduce himself and Akash and take on the proceedings from here. Thank you so much. It was lovely interacting with all of you. Over to Asad.
All right. Thank you very much, Subi ma'am. If I could share my screen.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So, hello all. My name is Asad, or the long form version of my name is Mohammad Asadullah Sharif, which I'm pretty sure you might not remember again. But Asad is fine, ASAD. Remember the president of Syria. Not the qualities, just the name. And that's all you need to know. I'm a lawyer. I'm registered in, the Hyderabad High Court. I've been, a practicing lawyer, at least a registered lawyer for 5 years now. I graduated in the year 2015 from Nalsar University of Law, and which means that I've taken my Clat 10 years ago. And I was actually nostalgic yesterday because 9th of May 2010 was when my Clat was. And Akash Joshi, who's also on this panel right now, is my batchmate, a very good friend from college. Our Clat was on the 9th of May, and yesterday, 3 to 5 p.m., I was in that thing, recalling how exactly my Clat went. But here I am 10 years, from then. So law as a career choice, right? So Survi ma'am has already discussed with you how...
so if the lockdown were not imposed, today was the Clat paper actually.
Yes, and
today was the first official date of the Clat paper.
Exactly. And if the lockdown was not imposed, I would have had hair on my head and also a smaller beard. I did this home remedy because I couldn't trim my beard, but I thought I could shave my head. I did not, unfortunately, anticipate that I would have to show my face to thousands of people here, doing this panel discussion. But it's okay. If you can't take me at my worst, then I guess you don't deserve me at my best either, so that's fine. So not talking about law as a career, Survi ma'am has already told you about several career options, right? You could be an engineer, you could be a doctor, and to be very honest, it's your choice ultimately. And by the end of the session, you actually feel like, law is not my cup of tea. I can't be a lawyer. I really want to be a chartered accountant, or get into architecture, or get into any other discipline. It's a decision. It's ultimately a decision. And we're not actually urging you to take law. We're not pushing you to take law. We're just telling you that whatever decision you make, it should be an informed choice, so that you don't regret later on in your life that, look, this is something that you could have taken, but you did not. And that is all we are here to do. So you see, law is something that is ubiquitous in the sense it's something that you'll find everywhere. Now, now that there is pandemic, I in my classes teach what is National Disaster Management Act or Epidemic Disease Act. Can Section 144 be imposed? Can emergency be imposed in the country on the basis that there is a pandemic going on? And these are issues that law actually deals with. But more importantly, law also goes into other spheres of life. So let's say there's a potential, there is a vaccine that is invented for COVID-19. It's estimated that it might take up to at least a year for the vaccine to come up. What if a private company invents a vaccine? What if it patents it? And what if it says we're not going to give this vaccine to anybody else, or even if we do, we're going to only give it if you pay a very high amount? What does law do then? There is something called compulsory licensing, which the government can enforce and take that vaccine technology from them and then give that vaccine technology to a lot of other pharmaceutical companies that they can make. And from there to as simple as our currency notes. You see, if you've realized, all our currency notes actually have a statement which says that I promise to pay the bearer a sum of money, and it's actually signed by the governor of RBI. Why is it so? I mean, currency note actually is a type of promissory note. So it's a legal instrument. It's a legal tender of money. So you see, law is something that actually is in every sphere, and you cannot really excuse yourselves of not knowing law either. In fact, there's a Latin maxim that we often use, that ignorantia juris is non exequisat, meaning if you say that you do not know what the law is, well, that's not an excuse. So you can't, someone can't murder another person and say, I'm really sorry, I did not know murdering was wrong. You can't actually do that because you're supposed to know law. So at a level of basic citizen of the country, you're supposed to know law. And as a lawyer, you do affect all these spheres of life that you have. Now, law has, generally developed several specializations. It's not just one specialization. So there are people who get into corporate law, doing securities law, real estate law, etc. People litigating, and in litigation also, you do quite a lot of corporate law. Or you might also conduct criminal trials. The art of chief examination, cross-examination that happens in criminal trials, it's something that eludes a lot of people. It's a skill set that only very few people develop. There is, of course, transactional work. In-house companies, several companies actually hire lawyers, etc. If you can join international organizations as well. In fact, we have Mr. Rahul Agarwal sir who has worked in several international organizations, and he'll share his experience with you. So you have sports law, media law, and arbitration and conciliation, etc. There are a lot of specializations that law has actually developed into. But why has it become, it's becoming a prime choice now. When I took my Clat, of course, there were only about 18,000 people who had taken that exam. And now it is estimated that this year it's going to be about 1 lakh people who might take the exam. So there's a reason why this has developed, and that the main reason is the advent of national law universities. Now, you see, this is one picture which we normally show to say that lawyers are actually, good people, that we have done quite a lot of good to the society as well. So you see Gandhi to Patel to Nehru to a couple of presidents also there, Pranab Mukherjee and Pratibha Patil including. But the credit actually has to go to this man, and I really wanted to put up this picture for a while, Professor N.R. Madhava Menon. He's an alumnus of Aligarh Muslim University. He's a lawyer. He was a lawyer himself, an excellent academician, or rather, he's often called the father of modern education in India. And the reason is that he is the one who started this idea of a 5-year law course. So before this, what used to happen is there used to be a 3-year graduation that you do, any graduation, BA, BCom, BSc, etc. Or a 4-year graduation like BTech. And only after you would do your graduation would LLB actually come into picture. It would be a 3-year LLB course. So it was slightly, taxing as well, that you first do your graduation and then you apply for another law college. It was the great Professor Madhav Menon sir who actually came up with this idea saying, you know what, why not do a law right after your 12th? Why not have independent universities, which are autonomous universities and which only specialize in law? Essentially, why not create IITs for law? And in fact, he said, the aim of these law universities that we are going to create, which will offer a 5-year law course right after your 12th, the aim will be actually to produce social engineers. So he said, lawyers are no less than engineers, but we are social engineers because we draft law, we debate law, we argue law, and a lot of people from the legal field also make law and adjudicate what the law should be. He unfortunately passed away last year, and which is why I thought we should pay respect to him. He was instrumental. He was the founder of National Law School of India University in Bangalore, the first National Law University. In fact, there is quite a bit of rivalry. So as a NALSA student, I will not say the best, but I will simply say arguably the best. But one thing that I cannot really debate upon is, of course, the age and the strong alumni that NLS actually has, and the strong grit in terms of academics that NLS has. It's unparalleled. And all credit goes to this man on your screen, in our Madhav Menon. He was also instrumental later in setting up NUJS in Calcutta. He was the founder of NUJS as well. And then Nalsar University and several other NLUs also came in between. And now, you see, law has become a profession where you could, take one of these positions as a lawyer. So it's not just that you'll be going to the court and arguing in a very dramatic fashion, the way that Bollywood has painted it as, that you're swinging your hands or pointing at people and you're shouting at people, or you're asking for adjournment after adjournment, tarikh pe tarikh, etc. No, we are actually a bit more than that. And you could actually occupy any of these positions as a lawyer. And the knowledge of law gives you, plenty of advantage in joining any of these fields. And then there are national law universities. So like I told you, there are, 23 national law universities as of now. I mean, of course, we started just with one in the year 1986 when NLS was created, or 1998 when NALSA was created. That was the second. But now we have 23. And the recent one was set up in Haryana and Sonipat, called B.R. Ambedkar National Law University. So 23 national law universities, and the government has actually promised, this is a promise that we've been hearing for almost a decade, that there should be at least one NLU for every state. Now that is actually going to happen pretty soon, because NLUs are coming up. Some states like Maharashtra actually have 3 NLUs, one in Nagpur, one in Aurangabad, and the third one in Mumbai. So NLUs are picking up and they're going to be established. All the NLUs, all the 23 NLUs are state universities, which means that the state governments have set them up. They are backed by a law that is passed in the state assemblies. So all the NLUs are state universities, the government universities controlled by the respective states they are in. Now, these are the career options that you have, after you graduate from an NLU. These are only few of the career options. The first, of course, is litigation. Litigation is the classic stereotype of what a lawyer does, that you go to a court and you present the client. I must tell you that we don't argue in the court. We make our submissions respectfully. We're very soft-spoken people, by the way, believe it or not. And we make arguments which are intellectual and not rhetoric. And we are also friends with opposite lawyers. We don't kill ourselves right after we argue. So litigation is something that is very challenging. It's very honestly, I must say that it's for those who have the courage and the patience to go into this field. And we have a senior advocate with us, Jaideep Narayan Mathur sir, who is going to also give you, his ideas of how litigation works, being an expert in this field himself. Then there is academics, that if you are interested in perhaps teaching or research or perhaps even policy making. So it's possible that you do your 5-year law school law course from NLU and then move on to do your master's, perhaps from a university in India or any university abroad, Ivy League college in US, or it could also be a college in UK, Cambridge, or Oxford, and do your MPhil, Master of Philosophy, or PhD, and then come back to India and teach, or perhaps stay abroad itself and teach. There are several scholarships also that are given to you, Rhodes Scholarship being, or Fulbright Scholarship, the 2 scholarships being well known for, for higher studies. And of course, in academics, you also have policy research. And by policy research, I mean you could do policy research for not just governments, but also corporates. You could work for a company and design their policy. You could work for the governments as well. So all the laws that are passed in parliament or state assemblies, or even the rules and regulations that the government actually passes, there is some lawyer, sitting behind, the doors and actually writing or drafting those rules and regulations. So academics is something that you could explore. And simple teaching could also be fine. And teaching actually, in fact, is a very satisfying job. Then there is corporate law. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you might be interested in this because there's word corporate in it. So it must also have money, and quite a lot of money, which it does, to be honest. So if you look at the recruitments at the top NLUs, on the first day of recruitment, we call it the day 0. That's the first day of recruitment in the top NLUs. On the day 0 itself, almost about half the batch in each of the top NLUs is placed. And the big 7 law firms that India has, the starting salary will be anywhere between 12 to 15 lakh rupees. And that's just your starting salary. I have my friends or batchmates who have been working in these law firms, since the time that they've graduated, who have reached senior associate positions and might be earning anywhere between 35 to 40 lakh a year. Yes, it's quite a lot of rigor. It's not, that an easy life. Of course, you have to work quite a lot. But yes, if money is your motivation, and if you like corporate law as a subject, and if that's your passion, then I think that should be your calling too. You could also join, companies. There are, companies like ICICI Bank or ITC who also hire directly from NLUs. In fact, ITC actually has one of the highest pay packages. They pay almost 20 to 21 lakh in the first year itself. So that's their starting pay package per year. And then there is judicial services, to which I'll also add civil services, because every year, at least about 4 to 5 people in the top 100 ranks of UPSC civil services are graduates of NLUs. They are lawyers who graduated from NLU. So it seems like law also helps your aspiration for civil services. That's because when you're doing BA LLB honors, that's the 5-year course, right? You tend to do a lot of subjects which are common with the syllabus of UPSC. So you tend to do history, sociology, political science, etc. And all of these help you towards your general studies subjects in your UPSC. And you could also take law as your optional. Then there is judicial services, which is which is obviously confined to those people who do law. Judicial service is something that every state has its own judicial service, lower judicial service, and the High Court of that state conducts the exam. You could simply apply for that exam. There's a prelim stage, there's a main stage, and then there is an interview. And once you're appointed, on the civil side, you'll be posted as a junior civil judge, and if you're on the criminal side, you'll be the magistrate. And the syllabus of judicial services is more or less, common with what you do in your 5 years of law school. So all that criminal law that you do, civil law that you do, transfer of property, etc., that you do, that's going to be the syllabus of judicial services. So the only difference is that whatever you do in your law, you simply have to perfect that, and you enter judicial services with that. And then there is social sector, voluntary organizations, NGOs, for example. In case you have a passion or gain satisfaction from helping the vulnerable in the society, from the downtrodden or underprivileged, and perhaps letting them assert their rights in a better manner, social sector is something that you can also explore, right? So like I told you, if money is your motivation, you see corporate law firm, you earn anywhere between 12 to 15 lakhs. This is the first salary. Or if you join an international law firm, then 25 to 28 lakhs is what they pay in the first year, which I guess if you adjust for the standard of living of, let's say, London to India, I don't think there's much of a difference between 12 to 15 lakh in India to 25 to 28 lakh in London. Then there are corporate offices. By this, I mean companies which hire lawyers. And litigators, well, there is actually no range there. People do earn crores in litigation as well. But before that, of course, these are the national law universities that you have to aim to get into, 23 national law universities, like I told you. And what is the eligibility criteria to get into an NLU? So if you look at this table on your screen, for Clat, all you need is a 45% in your class 12. Okay. You'll have to unmute.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. May I request some of our students to please exit this webinar? Unfortunately, we have filled all the seats and all, and there are some students who are waiting to join. So can I request some of our students to please exit this? We will give you the recording, and we are anyway there inside the classroom with you all, and we'll be happy to take this up again. I'm taking a score counseling. Asad is also taking a score counseling with me. So some 20-25 students, can you please exit? I can see some students here. We'll be giving you the recording today evening only. Thank you so much. I know you all are really kind and thank you so much. Thank you, Asad.
All right. So if you look at this table here, this table actually tells you what you should have in terms of eligibility criteria. For Clat, for the Clat examination, which takes admissions to 22 of the 23 national law universities. So like I said, there is going to be an exam for Clat, and 22 out of 23 national law universities will take admissions through Clat. There is one outlier in this regard, and that is National Law University of Delhi. And that conducts its own exam called ALET, All India Law Entrance Test. And I'll discuss a little bit of both these exams in the next slide. But if you look at the eligibility criteria, all you need for Clat is 45% in your 12th, irrespective of which stream you're from, or you need a 50% in your ALET. For your ALET, you simply need a 50%. So let's actually, for the safe side, let's assume the eligibility criteria is 50%. And that's all that you actually require, a 50% in your 12th, and you'll be eligible to take your Clat or any of the law entrance examinations, be it ALET or Syllabus, SAT, Syllabus entrance exam, or Maharashtra Common Entrance exam, etc., which also take admissions, which also give, send students to ILS Pune or GLC Mumbai. Now, Clat paper pattern, there has been some change here. The time hasn't changed. It's going to be a 2-hour paper. It'll have 5 sections. And if you realize, the 2 biggest sections in that bar are general knowledge and legal reasoning, about 25% each. And the entire Clat will have 150 questions. 150 questions, 2 hours. And each question will have 1 mark. And every question will be of MCQ type. You'll be given the question and 4 options, and you simply have to choose one of the multiple choices that you're given. If you get the answer right, you're obviously given +1. If you get it wrong, you'll have a negative minus 0.25. So you lose quarter of a mark for every wrong answer, whereas you gain 1 for every right answer. So 150 questions, 150 marks, and the time is 2 hours. And the way it's been divided is the general knowledge and legal reasoning is going to be 25% of the paper each, 35 to 38 marks each. In general knowledge, you have basic questions, trivia-based questions also from the ongoing issues. You are given a big passage, and they might also give you certain blanks which you will have to fill in. And then they will ask you related questions with regard to that. In legal reasoning, they are going to give you a passage again, a passage of about 400 words, which will have quite a lot of legal principles from various subjects, be it constitutional law, be it contracts or torts or criminal law, or any other subject. And then there'll be factual scenarios that will be given to you right under that. And you simply have to solve the factual scenarios, give out your decision based on the legal principles that you have read in the passage. It's pretty interesting and also exciting, and it's a skill that you will have to obviously develop with adequate practice. But once you do that, it's going to be fun solving these questions. Then the other 2 sections are English and logical reasoning. English section, about 20% of the paper, 30 marks out of 150, is going to mainly have reading comprehension. You'll be given passages, and there'll be questions that'll be asked under that, something that you might have obviously solved in school already, but you obviously will have to reach a level of perfection when it comes to Clat here. Then there is logical reasoning section, which mainly is going to be critical reasoning, which means that you will be given again a smaller paragraph or a larger paragraph, and you'll be asked to make certain, you'll be asked what was the assumption of the author, or which argument strengthens the argument of the author, or which statement weakens the argument of the author, and so on and so forth. Then there is mathematics, which is not mathematics anymore, actually. It's just 10% of the paper, 15 marks. They're calling it quantitative techniques, or they're going to have questions of data interpretation, where you'll be given pie charts or graphs. You simply have to read these pie charts and graphs, interpret them, and then answer the questions after that. So this is the basic Clat paper. 22 NLUs take admissions through Clat. The one NLU, the National Law University of Delhi, takes admissions through ALET, All India Law Entrance Test. Here, the paper pattern is slightly different. The number of questions is the same, 150 questions, 150 marks. The negative marking is also similar, 0.25 negative. But the time is going to be 1.5 hours. So instead of 2 hours, it's going to be 90 minutes. Instead of 120 minutes, it's going to be 90 minutes. So you have to solve 150 questions in 1.5 hours. And you see 4 sections are of equal value: general knowledge, legal aptitude, logical reasoning, English, all are of equal value, 35 marks each, and mathematics is 10 marks here. If you look at all the other exams here, Symbiosis entrance test also, and Maharashtra common entrance test. Maharashtra common entrance test is quite important these days because 2 very good colleges, Government Law College of Mumbai, but the oldest college, law college that India, has, perhaps Asia has. It was established way back in 1854. And ILS Pune, Indian Law Society College Pune. Both these colleges take admissions through Maharashtra Common Entrance Test, which is why that exam is important for all of us, irrespective of where you stay in India. So if you see the paper pattern, all right, the number of questions, etc., might change, but the kind of questions and the kind of aptitude-based questions or general knowledge-based questions or mathematical-based questions are more or less similar in all of this. So you could actually prepare for all the exams at once. You don't really require a different strategy for different exam. Even if the strategy changes, it's not going to be a drastic change. It's something that you can take into your stride while you're preparing itself. And that's with regard to all the exam, Clat, ALIT, etc., and the NLUs. We'll take your questions, but before we come to the questions, of course, I call upon Akash Joshi, who's my batchmate and a good friend from Nalsar again, graduate of Nalsar in 2015. He worked as an associate at one of the big 7 law firms called Jyoti Sagar Associates in Mumbai. He was placed on the day 0 itself. And after that, he moved on in his career to explore various other avenues, which he will talk about. And for now, of course, he's engaged with Clat Possible. He is one of our star teachers here who handles legal reasoning section. Okay, so over to you, Akash. And I'll stop my screen sharing so that you can.
Thank you for that illustrious introduction, Asad. I will start with sharing my screen first, and then we can talk a bit. Let's start with that. So as Asad and as Survi ma'am have already told you, my name is Akash, and I'm a graduate of Nalsar University of Law. I graduated from Nalsar in 2015, and I was myself a student at Clat Possible 10 years ago. So I guess I'm back to where I started. Before we go ahead, or before I go ahead with my part of this presentation, we will be taking questions towards the end of both of our sessions. So keep posting whatever doubts you have in the chat box. We are going through them and will address them in a consolidated manner. So what I'll be talking today is about, Asad has so far told you how to get into a law school. He's explored the different kind of exams that are available to you. He has told you about the different kinds of strategies that you need to develop. Both Asad and Survi ma'am have done that. Now I'm going to tell you what exactly happens once you are in law school. So this is in 15 to 20 minutes trying to abridge those 5 years that it seem very long in whatever acres of campus that you will be going to. Okay, so of course this is a meme. I'm sure a lot of you millennials are familiar with this concept. It's just to lighten the mood and what different conceptions do people have about what a law student's life looks like. But what we need to tell you that you possibly will be exercising any of these roles, although they might seem as stereotypes, but it is very well possibly what you will be doing. The last picture most probably. So let's go ahead. When we talk about law school, let's see what exactly is in store for you once you enter law school. The first that I'm going to be talking about is a rigorous but manageable academic schedule. Now, as Indian students and as students of schools where competitiveness is like a daily feature, where you are writing entrance papers, where you're appearing for your board exams, and you're writing more than one at a given point of time entrance papers, competition and academic pressure, although fortunately or unfortunately, is not something that is new to us. So that is something that is transferred to your law school life also, but you have a lot of help along the way. And we will be exploring each of these points in detail in the further slides that I have with me for you guys. But yes, you need to be aware that there is a rigorous academic schedule that lies ahead, but quite a manageable one. Now, it is not, let me not paint a law school as a landscape where there is nothing but to study. There are a lot of activities, there are a lot of co-curriculars, extracurriculars that you can take resort to vent that academic stress. And if you're not enough, and if you are so involved, obsessed with a particular thing in your life, then there are several opportunities that you can explore to go ahead and to kind of develop new paths in that sphere. And even if you're not, there are things that can keep you occupied, or maybe fortunately, unfortunately, eventually you'll turn into one. So my basic point is that there is something for everyone in a law school. But let's come to specifics. But what exactly is a law school life? The first thing, of course, the most obvious thing is academics. Now, when I talk about academics is not merely your course material. Academics is not merely what you study in a classroom. Of course, that is the primary basis of your education in any sort of university space or an educational space. But when it comes to law school, what is so peculiar about academics? Now, when we entered law school, which was way back in 2010, wow, 10 years, we had 5 subjects every semester. Now that differs according to universities. Some universities go by a semester system, some universities go by a trimester system. But roughly each semester, whether its duration might be anything, but you typically have 5 subjects. Once we enter law school, you have a predominance of humanities subjects. As you all know, this is an integrated law school education. So you have, your degree is called BA LLB. So you have a bachelor's in arts, that is humanities, and you have along with that a degree in law. But they are not 2 separate degrees, they're given in combination. So my point is that once you enter your first year of law school, you are taught humanities subjects, something like English, history, political science, sociology, economics, and you have sometimes these courses in parts. Now, the logic behind teaching you humanities subjects in law is to stress upon the fact that the study of law is an extremely interdisciplinary field, because law is influenced by and it influences all of these fields. So unless you don't have a good sense or a good understanding of how the government works, of how the Indian polity is, then your deftness in say of area of law such as constitutional law might be a bit, you might be a bit short skilled in that area. So you are taught all of these areas so that you have a better understanding of law itself, because law is not merely arguments. Law is not merely looking at a statute book or looking at the copy of a bare act, but it is also understanding it from various perspectives. And the study of humanities subjects definitely helps you with that. So law school gives you an immense opportunity and immense scope for exploring all of those different fields so that your understanding of law can be better. Now, academics also, in addition to your classroom study, also involves opportunities for research. And when I say research, it means research of various kinds. Every semester, because we had 5 subjects, so we had 5 different assignments to do for every subject at the end of every semester. Now, initially, we used to have research projects, which basically meant that we had to pick up a topic, or we were given a topic of law and we're supposed to write a research paper on it, which would involve exploring different areas of law within it, exploring different interpretations of the law that you're looking at. But it also involves other kinds of assignments that you could do. For example, you could be reviewing a book, you could be reviewing a movie, you could be reviewing newspaper articles, you could be writing something as you write for a newspaper article. So what I'm trying to say is that there are different ways in which you can explore your academic interests, which is not only restricted to a classroom study. Second, of course, is a very peculiar feature of law school, which is known as mooting. Now, for people who are not aware of what the concept of mooting entails, it is like a mock court. So I'm sure all of you have seen enough legal dramas, watched enough episodes of Suits, watched enough Bollywood movies, if that's closer to home for all of you, to understand what a court looks like and to at least have an image of what arguments in a court looks like. As Asad has already told you, it is not even remotely close to what it is, and you get a sneak peek of what an actual litigation life might look like in the form of mooting. Now, what mooting involves is that if you're interested, if you want to explore whether you can argue in a court, then do go ahead with mooting. What it involves is you're given a fictitious problem and you're asked to argue it like a lawyer with arguments, with written submissions in front of a presiding person. That person is maybe a senior, maybe someone who's come from outside to judge a competition, and you're supposed to present arguments. Now, the important thing to realize over here is that mooting is not only saying things in court. It is not only arguing or putting forth your point orally. It involves months and months of research. So, in fact, in a moot situation, you have positions of a speaker and you have a position of a researcher. So, but all of you, all the participants are required to be involved and knowing the issues in hand. So you have both speaker positions available and you have researcher positions available. And the opportunities that are available to you if you're interested in mooting is that most of the universities, I believe, at least NALSA, where Asad and I went to, we would have like a selection team panel, which would be like a pool of people who have participated in an internal moot court assignment, and based on their scores and their performance, we form a panel of people who would then go on to participate in national moot court competitions. So not only do you explore your own capabilities, but you also get to know what other law schools are performing like. And you have several universities across the country which conduct moot court competitions. And these moot court competitions are on different areas of law. So this is also an interesting opportunity for you to explore what area of law you're interested in. So the areas can range from constitutional law to international law to tax law to trade law. So there are endless possibilities. Now, internships. Are a good way, or are an interesting way to chart your career, to or at least know what career opportunities you are interested in. Internships typically begin either some universities have the practice of the university management staff itself being very involved in getting the students internships. Some universities have a student body which manages it, and some universities it is completely up to the students to apply and get an internship. But what does an internship involve? Basically, it involves working with a professional in a capacity which is not that of an employee or a retainer, but as it's like you are helping out that person. So you might start interning with a lawyer if you want to explore the opportunity, whether you want to become a litigating lawyer once you graduate, or you might intern with a law firm if you want to see whether if you're interested in a corporate law situation. Or you might also want to go and intern with NGOs. There are so many NGOs in the country right now which require some sort of legal help, or which are primarily catering to uh, uh, in cases of pro bono legal work. By pro bono legal work, I mean work that is done free of cost, especially for people who cannot afford very expensive legal fees, because legal fees tend to be extremely expensive, and lawyers tend to charge and sometimes exploit their clients. So internships are a good way of doing that. And what I might want to tell you over here about internships is that sometimes there does appear this sort of a differentiation, or at least an apparent distinction between people who go to one of the better NLUs or one of the top NLUs versus people who go to different NLUs. There is definitely some amount of prestige that is attached to belonging to, say, the top 4, top 5 NLUs versus to any other NLU. The only distinction is the ease of getting into any internship office. But the fact remains is that if you are so passionate and pursuing a specific goal where you want to intern or for eventually work in an organization that you so desire, then internships repeatedly done in that organization definitely helps you build a rapport with the people in that office, with the bosses over there, with people you wish to work for. One of the other things that a law school typically involves is debating. It is quite different from the kind of debates you might have done over your school life, because it is done in the parliamentary style. Now, parliamentary style is a very different form of debating, where you basically argue as you would in a parliamentary situation, but in a more civilized manner than it happens maybe in our parliaments. You are a leader of the house or you're opposition leader. You have opportunities for rebuttal or basically destroying the opposition, but in a timed manner where you're given the chance or time period to do that. So it's an interesting opportunity to explore. Quizzing. Quizzing is again it's a fun thing to do, and it might be quite anxiety ridden and tension giving source for people who are too much into it. But for someone like me who was not much into quizzing, it was a fun activity to sit and watch, because the quizzes were of different kinds. Sometimes you would have a pop culture quiz, sometimes you would have like a Bollywood quiz, sometimes you would have a purely legal quiz. So there is basically something for everyone in all of these subheads of law school activities. And then fests and events. So understand that law school at the end of the day is a college, is a university, and all those aspects of a university that are typically present in every such space, such as cultural events or events where you just let down your guard and have a fun time, are also present in a law school. It is, let me not tell you that, oh, academics and mooting and internships are the only things that are present in a law school sphere. There are fests and events, and by fests I mean they can be inter-college fests, they can be intra-college fests. We used to have something called the Carpe Diem, which was basically like a fun time to just hang out with the 5 years of law school students that were there, and it would be like a competition, but everything was in a fun and light-spirited manner. And events would be something like, we would have these regional fests, which would celebrate the diversity in the present on campus, where say UP MP would do something called Awadh Magad, something the Rajasthani fest would happen, an East India fest would happen. So there is a lot to a law school environment than mere academics. But what we need to remember is that law school life is what you make of it. I told you about all these areas that you saw in academics, in mooting, in debating, in quizzing. There is a possibility, a huge possibility, that your interest areas don't lie in any of those subheads. But if you have anything that you're interested in, if you have a passion to follow alongside your academics, there is something that you can make out of it if you know the people you want to approach. If you are passionate about doing a thing, and there are definitely resources available to you to explore those opportunities further. All right. The next panel or the next discussion that we can have is something that I've called Not Only in the Classroom. And what is important for us to realize is that learnings in a law school are not and should not be restricted to the boundaries of a classroom. Now, some of the most important legal lessons that I might have had, and I don't know if I can speak for Asad, but at least for me, were those discussions that we would have after the classroom has ended. Because you need to realize that our understanding of law and our understanding of law subjects is extremely informed by discussion. The entire basis of a legal profession, and especially if you're looking at a courtroom setting, when you're arguing a case and you're arguing on law, it is not only to advance the cause of your client, but it is also to advance your understanding of the law. You might, of course, put a face that you are defending your client only, but personally, in a personal manner, you are learning a lot from what the other person is also arguing in court. Now that is something that is very well reflected in law school setting. In a classroom, you will be taught legal provisions. You might also be taught about interpretations, but it is when you start discussing all of those uh, uh, points and subjects and interpretations is when you get to know more about that particular subject in hand. The diversity of people you encounter, and I will couple this with the third point, is that so far all of us, and I may be making a presumption over here, is that so far all of us have been brought up or have been in very protected environments when it comes to being in a school situation, when it comes to being living with our parents. What happens is when you enter into a law school, and especially if you enter into a national university, and because they are so sought after, you have people coming from various backgrounds. You have people coming from various regions of the country, people belonging to different religions, people having different cultures. So at one moment, you might face like, oh my God, is this a cultural shock? Because I'm looking at so many other things. But the fact is, and as I have stressed very importantly before, that an understanding of law is heavily informed by understanding what people are, by understanding what they have to offer you in your learning. So this is a very unique feature that I personally benefited from a lot when I was in Nalsar, is that I came to meet and know about a lot of people. As a North Indian residing in Lucknow, UP, I definitely had terrible conceptions about what South India is. I had terrible conceptions of what South Indian food is. But like, you are a different person when you emerge out of law school and you have met so many people. You come to know about the subtleties in people, in regions, in cultures, and it leaves you quite an enlightened being, if I could put that in very subtle manners. And exposure to different ideas, mindsets, almost a microcosm of the legal profession. So in the legal profession also, because you have lawyers who are of different capabilities and calibers, you have lawyers who are of at different stages in their career. So is a law school. A law school can be seen like as a foundation for building up to a legal profession, right? So you meet so many people over there and you are exposed to so many ideas that your thinking, your understanding of law itself is developed to quite an extent. So what I'm trying to say essentially is that you need to keep an open mind. You might have certain preconceptions, you might have certain prejudices as to how people are or as to how they operate, but once you come to know them, and especially in a law school environment, and especially when we were in law school, we had a very limited intake of 80 people per batch, right? So we were 400 people in we were 400 people in we were 400 people in sorry we were 400 people in 55 acres of campus, so we knew everything about everyone. So it was a very informed and a very involved growing up in 5 years. So it was definitely an added bonus for everyone. But who are the people who will be along with you? You have your faculty. Now faculty over here in law schools are people who have had years of practice, years of experience in particular areas of law. We had Faizan Mustafa as our Vice Chancellor, who continues to be the Vice Chancellor of Nalsa University of Law right now, who's considered to be a constitutional law expert. So you have such illustrious faculties teaching you, so you are in good hands as far as your legal education is concerned. Guest lectures are people of eminence in legal professions who come and give you lectures. So we had, for example, Justice S. Murlidhar, the very illustrious Delhi High Court judge who right now was transferred to the Punjab and Haryana High Court, who he had come down and taken a course. I might not remember the name of the course exactly right now, but what I'm trying to say is that when you have such illustrious people coming and giving you and educating you on areas of law, you need to grab those opportunities and be ready to learn from all of these opportunities. Alumni meets. So alumni meets are a very strong way of people coming and interacting with people who are right now in profession or who have graduated from law school and are practicing in various areas. So it's a good way of interacting with people and getting a very hands-on and a personal approach, because you can tend to be very impersonal in their interaction. So you get to know a bit more about what actually the legal situation outside the law school life is. Staff is, of course, an important. You need to be kind, you need to be respectful to the people who help you along the way, your librarians, your peons, of your vice chancellors, people who strive and give you food in your mess situations, is is something that will greatly help you. And of course, at the end of the day, you have your batchmates. You might not like all of them. You can make friends, and you make friends for life once you're over there. But what happens once you're done with all of this? Now, I think Asad has given you a fairly good idea about what are the opportunities available to you, and at the cost of repetition, you have placements. Placements are something that happen. Uh, so to just run through quickly, you have placements, which Asad has told you about. It can be judiciary, it can be corporate law firm engagements, it can be a corporate counsel. You have higher studies. You can definitely apply for an LLM either in the country or outside. You can go independent and start your own practice, or you can have a career switch. I mean, I did that. I worked for 3 years in a law firm, and then I tried to do my photographic practice. I entered photography actually for 2 years. But what I'm trying to say is that once I had a degree in law and I had sufficient practice of 3 years, I knew that I was financially secure. So I could always go back to it. And right now, that's what stage I'm at. And with that, we come to an end of what a law school life looks like. This is just to lighten the mood. That's something definitely we continuously do. Look at the length of a case law, look at the length of a book before going ahead with it. And that's all. With that, I'll pass the mic back to Asad, and we can take some questions if there are any.
Yes, we do have plenty of questions. In fact, the question and answer panel in the chat has been going quite crazy right now. The question and answer panel actually has more than 300 questions. We won't be able to answer all of them. But I have about 2 or 3 questions that I see a common pattern from all the questions. Most of the people actually, or the most asked question is BLLB, BBLLB, BSLLB, or BCom LLB. Is there a difference? Of course, there's a difference in terms of subjects, but do you think it will have any tectonic effect on your career that you want to start right after college? Akash, would you want to answer that?
So, as far as my personal understanding goes, NLU Jodhpur has a practice of offering BLLB, BSLL, BBLLB, or even BSc LLB, and I have quite a few friends who were in those fields. Now, as far as your career goals are concerned, at least a handful of them were in the same law firm that I was working at. So, what people generally tend to do at the stage of their law school life in choosing either of these streams, they either go for, which subject combination will give me a better score and a better CGPA at the end of every semester, so that at the end of my 10 semesters, I can apply for this particular job which requires me to be academically proficient, or which requires the CGPA requirement, or which requires me to apply for higher studies. So what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't really affect the kind of legal profession that you want to enter. As long as you want to enter into the legal profession, it helps you in your academics in college and managing your grades over there. Asad, if you want to add something to that.
No, that's completely correct. In fact, if you are looking to be placed in the corporate law field, corporate law sector, then it does not actually matter if you take BLLB or BBLLB, because they look for your legal skills. They're not looking for exactly which subjects you've taken. That's number one. And number two is the top NLUs, at least, be it NLS or NALSA or NLU Delhi, etc., they only offer BLLB. And that is because BA goes really well with the LLB. When you do humanities, when you do sociology, it's easy to understand constitution. Or when you do political science, it's easy to understand international. Another question that we've got, and I'll try to answer this question on my own, is about internships. As to what are internships, how many do you do? It depends on the college, of course. For example, if I talk about my college, we would do 2 internships right after our odd number semester, which means in our winter vacation, we would do 2 internships because we got the entire vacation of November and December. Your semester ends in October, and November and December for your internships, and your next semester starts in January. And during summer, you would do 1 internship. So if you add it all up, you'll get 14 internships, 14 possible internships throughout 5 years, not counting the 1 month towards the end. So, and then internships is one thing that you do with a lot of people. You can intern with a lawyer, policy research, and law firm, etc., to get a basic understanding of how things work, and then you can, of course, decide what you want to do later on. One last question that I'll take myself also is that what is the key to crack Clat? A lot of people have been asking, where should you do classes? How should you prepare? How can you crack Clat? And is there any shortcut? But to be honest, there isn't much of a shortcut. And in fact, Sufi ma'am will talk to the law school student panelists, and they will tell you just that. But number one, of course, mentoring and guidance is very important. Okay, that is non-negotiable. I guess so. You need to know in which direction you're moving so that you have a sense of direction. And number two is the best tool that helps you in preparing is your mock tests. So you test yourselves often, and you take a lot of these tests to prepare yourselves for the ultimate exam. And both of these things will help you. Okay. With regard to careers, etc., UPSC and judicial services, will take all these questions towards the end of the session again when we are doing the panel. So for now, I actually would want to invite our keynote speaker, who I think has been patiently waiting for us to wrap up, everything that we've been, speaking. Our keynote speaker for today is Jaideep Narayan Mathur sir. He's a senior advocate. He's been in the litigation field for several decades now, one of the most well-known lawyers of not just, Lucknow or Uttar Pradesh, but also the North India. He was appointed as the additional advocate general of the state of UP back in the year 2006. In fact, he was the youngest person to have been appointed to that position. So that should also give you an example of, that should illustrate his expertise and his skill set in the field. So it's an honor for me to have Jaideep sir here. So I call upon Jaideep sir to address all our attendees, and then I pass it on to sir now. Sir, if you could switch on your video as well as audio.
I think you'll have to switch it on for me, the video.
All right. Can someone, the host, please switch the video on for Jaideep sir?
My screen says I'm unable to start video because the host has stopped it. So I think we'll just have to start it.
Okay. Can someone from the IT team, can Robert sir look into this? Can you please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on now. It's coming on. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. We all can.
Hi, I'm a little new to this format of talking to people. So please bear with me for a bit. These days, even the courts have gone online with video conferencing, so we are sort of trying to adjust to all this. Anyway, let me start off by saying that this is very impressive that there are so many people who actually want to do law. I did my law many, many years ago. And at that time, it was the last option for a lot of us. And even after completing law, to practice law was again the last option. So today it's very heartening to know that there are so many people who are actually, looking at law as the first option. and then practicing law also as the first option in their careers. So this is interesting. I think this is something which needs to be taken forward. Now, let me tell you a little about myself. I am about 56 years old. I'm practicing in Lucknow. I'm a lawyer in the High Court. I started my practice in 1988. Before that, I'd done my BA Honours in History from St. Stephen's College. Then I did my LLB from Lucknow University. I did the 3-year Lucknow University LLB because there was no 5-year law course at that time. And after that, I started my practice in Lucknow. I was working in the chambers of my father and my grandfather. So I'm a family lawyer. Everybody in the lawyer is a family. Everybody in the family is lawyer. So after that, I've been practicing since 1988. I was, for about 7.5 years of my life, I was working with the government. I was Additional Advocate General for UP. And I got a taste of litigation from the government's perspective. And I'm a senior advocate. I'm practicing in the High Court, well, almost exclusively in the High Court, doing some criminal cases also, but largely civil, constitutional, commercial law practice. And I get a lot of kids who come and intern with me every year. So I deal with young people a lot. So maybe I can address many of your queries. Maybe I could answer many of your queries. And maybe after you get into law school, you could come and even intern with me, during your semester breaks. So let me tell you a little about litigation and about how the practice of law works. First thing, I've been seeing, the presentation which Asad made and Akash and before that Surbhi. And the one thing I wanted to add to the choice of career, which is now available for people who've done law, that earlier, you could only become a lawyer if you'd done your law, if you'd done your 5-year law degree. And most of us, opted either to become lawyers or go into teaching of law, academics, or we did corporate law, litigation, policy making, did all that. But the newest trend that I have found emerging is that corporates are going to law colleges to recruit for non-legal jobs as well. So I had this guy who used to intern in my office regularly. He wanted to litigate. He did litigate for a bit, but after that he wanted to, explore the corporate world. So he's got a job now with a bank as a regular banker. He's working in a multinational bank. He's presently posted in London. He's doing very well for himself, and it's not a legal job that he's doing. He's also doing he's actually doing a regular banking job. So when I met him recently, he told me that a lot of banks and a lot of corporates are going to law colleges to recruit for regular jobs, for regular corporate jobs. So for instance, you could get a multinational company recruiting for a marketing job or a finance job, or a bank going and recruiting for a banking job, just as they go to places like the IIMs, or they go to various other premier institutes in the country. So this is the newest thing that's happening, that lawyers are actually getting into the corporate world as well, and these jobs are extremely good, challenging jobs. But let me tell you a bit about how this works, how lawyering works from the point of view of litigation and what we actually do. In a way, it is not very similar to what you see in the movies and what you see in Suits and whatever else you see on TV, but it's very, very different. But let me tell you, it's far more exciting. Let me tell you how this works. First, the degree of independence that you have as a lawyer is something which you would never have in any other job, except maybe medicine or something else. But there again, there it has its own things. But as a lawyer, you're completely independent. You decide what you have to do. So if you are a person who values independence, and if you're a person who wants to do your own thing, then lawyering is certainly something which is right up your street. You want to, appear in court before, before the court only for espousing causes of the poor and downtrodden, you can do it. I know lawyers who are only wildlife lawyers, who want to just, who spend their time with a video camera in the jungles as a hobby, and the rest of the time they're actually in courtrooms and arguing cases, wildlife cases. About how I argued a case where I was engaged by this lawyer who came to me, and he said that he wanted the elephant corridor in the Dudhwa National Park to be restored, and we filed a PIL, and it was all about wildlife. So it was absolutely amazing. There are people who bring NGOs to a court to do case for them. So even as a litigator, you can actually pursue your own interest in your own area of what you're passionate about, and you can actually practice like that. The second thing is that the job satisfaction that you have as a litigating lawyer is not only very high, but also it is immediate. So in the evening, when you're sitting in your chamber, you'll have a chap who comes to you who's completely woebegone, and he doesn't know what he's going to do next, and you've been sort of asked to advise him, and you want to tell him what he has to do, and then you finally give him legal advice, and then you take his case to court, and the very next day you have the same guy in your office, smiling from year to year, and he's come with a box of sweets for you, and after that you're the most important guy in his life. So the job satisfaction that you get is completely immediate, and it's very, very high. I let me give you a little story about this girl who was working in my chamber some years ago. And one evening when I was leaving the chamber, I found this chap he was a villager. He'd come to her with a polythene bag full of papers, and all he knew was that his land was being taken away, and he didn't know anything else. And I left the chamber and I came back for a bit at about 10 o'clock at night, and I found that, she was working, the lawyer was working, and all the other associates in the office were working on this guy's papers. And this guy was looking a little hopeful, but he was still very, very sort of diffident about what would happen. Apparently, these people worked through the night. The next morning, when I came to office, I found that they had left only in the early hours of the morning, but there was a writ petition which had been filed, which had been prepared. It was completely ready. It had been typed out. And, the next morning by afternoon, it was filed. And the very next day, when I came back into the office in the evening, I found that this guy was there with a box of sweets and smiling from ear to ear. And all these people were all smiles. And it seemed that they had actually taken the matter to court, made a mention for urgency, argued the case before the judge, and they'd got him some sort of interim order from the court, because of which his land, which was to be taken away, was safe as of now. It was amazing to see the job satisfaction. Years later, I found one day that almost about 2 years later, I came into office and I found that everybody was ready to go out somewhere in the evening. I asked them, where were you going? So they told me that they were going to the village where this guy had come from, their client. And somebody in his family was getting married, and he wanted the whole the chamber to be there, because they were such important people in his life. And this was a relationship which sort of continued, because I was told that even after that, he was referring everybody from his village to these lawyers, and they were coming and meeting them regularly. So the point I'm making is that the job satisfaction as a litigating lawyer, and actually as a lawyer, is very, very high. You end up doing great work for people. You end up interacting with people. You actually know the pulse of society, because you interact with so many different type of people, that the job that you're doing makes you not only useful and indispensable at times, but also gives you a lot of understanding on the way people think, and the way people work, and the way government moves. All these things are important in today's day and world, and therefore being a lawyer is a very, very good thing. Again, as a lawyer, it's a very exciting job. There is never a sense of boredom. Right now, I might have a client who wants to litigate with his employer. And the minute he leaves, I have another meeting tied up with a client who wants to take his bank to court. And then you have somebody who wants to file a PIL. Then you have somebody who has a land problem. Then there's somebody who has, there is a criminal case which comes your way. So what you actually end up doing is you're doing different type of cases. So there's never a sense of boredom. Also, there is never also a sense of routine, because you know that there may be an evening when you are overworked and you can keep working till midnight or even through the night. But there might be other evenings when you just want to leave and you can go and watch a movie in the evening because there isn't enough work. So there is no routine. There is no sense of boredom. There is no sense of getting into a rut, because you have to keep doing things. These days we are all reinventing ourselves. We're learning how to sort of practice law on the screen, on the computer screen. So all these things put together make law a very exciting proposition. Now, two more things which people and many parents actually of young boys and girls who want to practice law are very curious to know. First is, how hard does a lawyer have to work? Now, let me tell you that whether you're a corporate lawyer or whether you're practicing in the courts or whatever type of lawyer you are, it's very hard work. There is no doubt about the fact that it's a hard day at court, and you also have to work in the evenings if you're a litigating lawyer, because the cases that you have to do the next day and the clients that you have to meet, you do that in the evening, and it's only then that you're able to actually appear in the court effectively. Having said that, on the busiest of days, on the days when I've been before the court on my legs arguing cases for what seems like eternity, even on those days, there's always been enough time to catch a couple of cups of coffee, to stand in the corridors with lawyer friends and chat and gossip. There's been enough time to hang around in the court and generally see what is happening. So it's a nice relaxed day, even though you're very busy. So in court you're working. The environment in the court initially, in my earlier years of practice, was not very nice, because it was a small court that we were working in Lucknow at least, and especially for lady lawyers, there weren't enough facilities for lady lawyers, etc. But today, in a place like Lucknow, which has a huge high court, which is probably one of the biggest courts in the country, the court is a very nice place. It's got lots of chambers, got lots of canteens, there's lots to eat and drink. There is a nice coffee shop. You can actually many lawyers come there, and even instead of their morning walk, they just walk in the corridors of the court to get exercise. There's lots to do. It's hard work, but there's lots to do. Let me also tell you a bit about myself. I am a very hardworking lawyer, in the sense that I work 6 days a week. I'm in my chamber. 5 days a week I'm in the court. Every day in the evening I'm in the chamber in the evenings. But I have time for everything else. I don't know if many of you who are from Lucknow may have seen me at the race course. I'm racing horses. I'm going out very often. I'm regularly meeting friends and partying. So there's lots to do. So even though the work is hard, and and also the working hours are very long, because you're also working in the evenings, but yet I see that as an opportunity to actually have a lot of fun also, because I find that even my friends who are in the corporate world, or friends who are in government jobs, are also working equally hard, and they're working in the evenings as well, and it's not a big deal, this work. The second question is, what's the money? Now that's an interesting one, because earlier the perception was that in corporate law one makes a lot of money, but in litigation and in other fields there's not enough money. Now that is a feeling which was there earlier, but gradually I find that that is the gap between what you earn in corporate law and what you earn in litigation is gradually being narrowed down. Let me start with giving you some specifics. When you start your career as a litigating lawyer, you earn almost nothing. you earn what is, almost just a stipend, what your senior might give you, and, and an occasional case which you might be doing. So you earn very little money, but that changes very, very soon. My take now is that within the first few years of your practice, you are able to earn enough to be able to, do most things which, your friends are doing. So while right in the beginning, you may not be earning as much as what a corporate lawyer earns, but within the first few years of your practice, you are earning, well, if not as much, then, a fair amount of what your corporate lawyer friend earns. After about 5 years of practice or 6 years of practice, if your legal practice is going on well, you will be doing very well for yourself, and there shouldn't be a problem. If you're a hardworking guy working with a good senior or with a good law firm, you'll be absolutely fine. There is no problem. And towards when you enter the middle stages of your career, there'll be more money that you can handle. So I see no problem with earning now. Earlier, there was a big problem. When I had started my practice about 30 years ago, lawyers weren't earning enough money. I mean, a small indication, in the High Court, only about 15 or 20 lawyers actually had cars. Everybody else came on a scooter. Many lawyers even came on cycles. This 30 years ago. Today, there are upwards, I think, of 2,500 cars in the High Court. I think everybody who comes to court, most people come on cars, or some people come on motorcycles. Just as an aside, every possible make of car that you can imagine is there in abundance in the High Court. So therefore, lawyers are earning a lot of money. So money is also not, like earlier, money was a big problem with litigation, but now money is not a problem. People are earning a lot of money. Also, let me give you a little story. My grandfather used to tell me when I started my practice that, about 70 years ago, when he had started his practice, or 75 years ago, there were only 3 types of people who went to lawyers. Businessmen have always been going to lawyers. So there was the businessman. The second were, the landlords, and, the people who had lots of land, or the tenants, or people who were, litigation relating to land and property. So those were the people who went to lawyers. And the third class of person who went to the lawyer was the common scoundrel who was caught by the police. So he went to lawyers, and there was no third class of lawyer. There was no third class of litigant. Today, I hardly know anybody who doesn't go to a lawyer, who hasn't been to a lawyer, who hasn't, consulted a lawyer for something or the other. So that is partly the reason why, lawyers have more money. Lawyers have started earning so much more, because everybody needs a lawyer, just as everybody needs a doctor. Now there is, a person who's, living a normal life. Maybe he's a businessman, maybe he's a government servant. Everybody needs a lawyer. He goes to a lawyer. So because of that, lawyers are doing remarkably well for themselves. Also, let me tell you another thing. People were very apprehensive of lawyers, till some years ago. There was this popular perception that, that lawyers told a lot of lies. That is something which is so completely a lie in itself that it's hard to believe. Once you become a lawyer, you realize that that's all lies. But you do not tell lies. The other thing was that popular perception was that, till you had some government, backing in your career, etc., you couldn't make much of yourself as a lawyer. So you needed to be a government lawyer to gain some respectability, etc. That's all a thing of the past. Today, the best lawyers are the private lawyers. Today, the best lawyers you see, practicing before the Supreme Court are lawyers who are actually representing, causes of, people who are the downtrodden, causes of the environment. You have huge commercial lawyers who are all private lawyers. So the position now is that, society has started accepting lawyers as very, very important, eminent people in their own right. So at the time of the freedom struggle, they were recognized as such. And then somewhere along the way, we took a beating. But I think we are back to, leading society from the front. So there are lots of lawyers now who, who become judges and who later on feel that, maybe when they were lawyers, they were enjoying themselves more, and that they were in touch with more people, and there was a lot of fun that they were having. So so much for lawyers having a good time and being looked up to in society and everything else. And I find also that all of you who are looking at law as the first option, that itself is reflective of the way in which lawyers are being treated by society. You see, because if all of you are interested in a career in law as the first option, right? When you're in class 11 and 12, then it's an indication of how highly society regards lawyers. That parents are interested that their children become lawyers. You yourselves are being constantly sort of told that if you do well, you'll become a lawyer. So all these things are very heartening, and I just feel that things are very good for the legal profession. The one thing which I need to also tell you about is that the quality of mentoring at this stage is very, very important. You need to get the right sort of mentor. You need to get people who can guide you correctly and in time in the right direction. You need to be told what you have to do to get into a law school. Because they become very competitive. So I see kids who come and intern with me. I find that, there are very, very bright kids who have got into law school, and all of them say that, they were mentored at the right time, because of which they were able to get into, the right law schools, or they were able to do, courses of their choice, etc. So I think if given the right kind of mentoring, and with a little bit of hard work at this stage, you can all become great lawyers. So look forward to seeing you as a lawyer. And whenever you are, if you're in any doubt, or when you want to sort of clarify any doubt as to what a lawyer does, or whether you want to be a lawyer or not, please feel free to come and see me whenever you want. And I am here in Lucknow, but you can access me on the net now, or in whatever way you want to, and I'll be there to speak to all of you. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Yes, thanks a lot, Jaideep sir, for your valuable ideas. I have about 2 to 3 questions. In fact, I have about 150 questions, to be honest. But I could decipher a pattern of all these questions, and reduce it to 2 or 3 so that the maximum utility could actually be found out. The first question, of course, a lot of people said that they were interested in litigation, and it does excite them. But in that goal, how does college matter, or which college they go to, or what skill sets they develop in college? How does that matter? And is it does a person who's coming from a top NLU or from a traditional law college these days, will a person from NLU have an advantage in that sense?
Let me try to answer that. 3 things. While you are in law school, it would be good if you were mooting as often as you can. That helps, because that gives you an idea of, it's a virtual courtroom. You get an idea of what actually happens. I've been judging moot courts, and I see, the skills that are involved are the same skills that are required of a litigating lawyer. Second, it doesn't really matter which law school you are from, because finally, I have yet to meet a client who, first wants to know which law school the lawyer has been to, or, what his academic background is. You are as good as the last case you've done. So, and if you're a lawyer who has empathy for people, and you know your stuff, and you've studied law properly, and you can stand up and argue a case, you're fine. You're fine. And so it doesn't really matter where you got into, as long as you've been to a law school, and as long as you've, studied very hard there. So that's the thing.
And another one question, pretty innocent of a question actually, but a lot of people have been noticing all the books that you have behind you, and they feel a little scared that they might have to read all of these, so that they're now contemplating if litigation actually is the choice they should pursue.
Let me tell you a story. See, my father told me, we have a huge library here in the office. So my father told me that, you see, many of these books are not for the lawyer, they're for the client. So I said, what does that mean? He says, when a client goes to a lawyer's chamber and he finds so many books there, client is very impressed. He assumes that the lawyers read all of them. The truth of the matter is, I don't think I've read all of them. I've not even read half of them, I'm sure. But yes, the ones I do read, I do read. But it's not, let the books not intimidate you. A lot of them are, they're there because they look really nice in the office. Do come over, have a look sometime. There are lots of them. I could take you around and show you the books. I've not read most of them. Trust me in that.
Yes, sir. And one last question before I close this session. Actually, is what are the timelines for a person who's entering into litigation? I mean, somebody simply said, "I actually want to be a senior advocate," and like you. So now, tell me, when will I become a senior advocate?
Let me just give you the timeline. When you start practice, the typical format is that you start your practice with a senior. Now, when you start your practice with senior, earlier the timeline was totally crazy and different, but today the timeline is this, that you should actually spend about 2 years to 3 years with a senior in his chambers, so that not only do you learn how to, present yourself in court and how cases to be prepared, you also get, the droppings of the table, which means that, the senior hands over cases to you, the senior hands over clients to you, they finally become your own clients. Second situation, you also, have the benefit of a library, because when you join a senior's chamber, you have a library which in the beginning you're not able to afford, or you don't have the space or whatever. So 2 to 3 years in a senior's chamber. After that, the attempt should be to either get together as a group and start off your own practice with 3 or 4 of your friends, so that you can share office space, you can share a library, you can also share clients, and I'm sure you'll start getting work by then. 5 years down the line, I think most people end up finding some sort of work for themselves, and they're working, at least in the High Court, they're absolutely cool. To be a senior advocate, you need to put in 20 years of practice, which seems like a very long time, but the way time flies in the courts, it's not such a long time. So I became a senior advocate when I was about 45 years old. I was additional advocate general when I was about 41 years old or 42 years old. I became additional advocate general. So now things are becoming, now I'm told recently they've designated senior advocates at Allahabad High Court and in Lucknow. Some of them are about 40. So between 40 and 42, you can get designated. Other places, maybe in places like Delhi and Bombay, they're designating senior advocates even earlier, at a younger age. Maybe at 40, you get designated, 39, 40, you do get designated. But let's look at about 42, 43 as a goal. So it's not as bad as that. You do need, also, it's not such a good idea to become designated as a senior advocate very early, because you completely lose touch with the client. A senior advocate only argues cases, he doesn't draft. He doesn't meet clients. So it's not as if, so till you've not met clients in abundance, you actually don't get a feel of how, the case is to be argued. So it's only after years of experience, after you put in about 20 years of practice, you don't need to meet the client, you just need to meet the lawyer at a briefing consult. So that's the way it is.
Thank you a lot for your time, sir. And the ideas would get they can't get any more insightful, not just for the time now, but also for the long association and the support that you've always provided to Clat Possible. And we'll obviously have.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your time, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Asad. Thank you.
Now we move on to our second speaker of the day, and that is Mr. Rahul Agarwal, sir, who is an alumnus of National Law School of India University, NLS, in Bangalore, and has also proceeded to do his master's higher studies at Harvard, and also worked in plenty of, gotten plenty of experience working in certain international organizations. And now presently he's practicing as an advocate at the Allahabad High Court in Allahabad. So I call upon Rahul, sir, to, perhaps if you could unmute yes, you have it here. So I call upon Rahul, sir, to share his ideas as well with all of us.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Right. Thank you. A little bit background about myself. At that time, there was no Clat, but it was in 1999 that I first sat for law school. Lucky enough to have made it through in the first attempt itself. Those days, there was just National Law School. NUJS had started out, but I didn't know about it. Bhopal was starting out. It was the first batch in 99, or maybe the second batch of Bhopal as well. So those were the two law schools that I sat for, and I was lucky enough to have been selected by both. Obviously, I took National Law School Bangalore. It was an older law school, more established, and I had some relatives in Bangalore that I could look forward to being with. 5 years in law school, then in 2004, I went to Harvard, did my master's there. While at Harvard, I was picked up by the World Bank to work in the legal department, worked there for 2 years, and then came back to India in 2007. It's been about 13 years that I've been in Allahabad practicing here in the High Court, mostly on the civil, tax, corporate, and constitutional law sides. So I don't do much of criminal law work, but a little bit of it, white collar crimes, basically corporate clients that I have to advise and assist on their criminal aspects, I do deal with. I've been listening very intently with all the inputs that a lot of panelists have given. Jaideep sir has taken all of you guys through a lot of what life as a lawyer is. And I would just share my input on life in law school, life abroad, coming back, what prompted me to come back, and how it's been for me. So going into law school, honestly, I see a lot of questions about PCM, about arts, about humanities. I was a PCM student, and I did prepare for IIT for a year. But about 8 months down the line, while I was in the last 3 months of my Class 11 course, I realized that I wasn't getting far with my preparation. I wasn't making much sense of the concepts of physics and maths and chemistry. They weren't appealing to me much. So I then decided to shift into law. Studied a year for law, and as somebody said that, as Surabhi perhaps pointed out, that in the beginning, your aptitude is being tested. It is your logic, it is your reasoning, it is your approach. And somebody suggested that you should do as many competitive examinations as possible because that's what they're testing you on, your approach. So at that time, we didn't have assistance of Clat Possible or any other organization while we were preparing for law. We were practically at sea and we had to figure it out ourselves. We didn't even have the benefit of too many past question papers, and every year the pattern would change. But what helped me a lot at that time were magazines like Competition Success Reviews, which had question papers from banking examinations, from management courses. Their logic, their aptitude, their GK is what helped me then. Getting into law school was also quite an experience. It was such a huge diversity of students. We were just 80 of us. But it was for the first time that I was getting to meet people from across the country, learn about them, learn about their cultures, their uniqueness. And I wouldn't be ashamed to say that I found almost all of them to be much brighter, sharper, and intelligent than I was. But then that is what motivated me to work harder to get better. First year was very difficult, but after that, once you get that routine, once you are in that groove, then it's not that hard any longer. It's not easy, but it's not hard. In fact, first 2 to 3 years when you work in law school, after that, it's like you've built a wave for yourself on which you are surfing. And it never seems to end. The last 2 years, they just are so easy and they pass by like a flash. And that is when you really have the time of your life as a student. In the 5th year, when I was selected for Harvard, my joy knew no bounds. And why was it that I was so looking forward to it? Not for the name. I mean, I honestly hardly studied there, but more because I get to meet so many people from across the world. I broaden my horizons. That is what matters most as I look back for a lawyer, that you have to have an open mind. You should always be willing to learn from people around you, not just in your course of law, but from people around you, how they are doing things, how they may do things better, and what is it that you can adapt from them and adopt from them. How can you make your own life better and the life of those around you better? So Harvard was also excellent. Then in the World Bank, when I was there in the legal department, it was an eye opener because that is when I got an opportunity to travel across the world. I must have visited about a dozen countries, all developing ones, particularly those in Africa. And then you realize that how much of a difference you as a lawyer or as an individual can make to the lives of the general population. One call that you take, one decision that you make on whether to do a particular thing in one way or another, it helps a lot. And it can change, it can literally transform the lives of general populations across. It can have a ripple effect that you can't even imagine. For 2 years there in the World Bank, I had a great time meeting so many people, made friends for life. And now that was when I decided after 2 years that it is time to get back. Because to my mind, I thought that that was not why I had become a lawyer. For me, my heart and soul lay back in India. So I thought, let's move back. Let's get back to Allahabad. It has a high court. I will not be uh, out of place if I move back to my hometown. And I start here. I could always eventually switch over to Delhi or a metropolitan city like Bombay or Bangalore. But I thought to myself, let's give it a shot in Allahabad. Let me see how it goes. And then we'll see. And there's not been a single day that I've had to look back. As Jaideep sir pointed out, first few months are difficult, particularly when you're making a switch from a nice dollar salary in the World Bank. It is difficult, no doubt. The first few months you don't get paid. But if you are sincere, if you are hardworking, and you have a little bit of luck, it won't take long before you establish yourself. When I thought I'll come back and start here, I had given myself 5 years. But within the first 1 year and a half, I thought the target that I had set for myself at the end of 5 years, I was exceeding it already. I was lucky enough to get a very good senior to guide me. I had a great group of friends that I could share things with, I could bounce ideas with, and I could learn from. But so within a year and a half, I was already exceeding my own expectations. And after that, yes, even today, there are days when I have to calm myself. I have to control it and say that no, things will get better. Because you see, in litigation, as opposed to a law firm or a position where you get a salary is very predictable. You get your salary at the end of the month and it doesn't matter after that. You do your work, yes, you derive your satisfaction from that, but there's somebody else who's paying you for it. But in litigation, it's every day is uncertain. Today, as Jaideep sir also said, you might be flooded with work. And there may be days when you can just hop across for a movie in the evening. In your peak office timing, you can just say, I just want to feel, I want to have a look at a movie which is playing in the nearby multiplex. So litigation is uncertain, but it is this uncertainty that excites you most. It is this uncertainty that to me personally, I find very challenging because it forces me to innovate. It forces me to keep getting better. It keeps me at the edge and it inspires me to improve. And that is what life of a lawyer is. As Jaideep sir said, you should moot. Mooting is an integral part of law school life that none of us should miss out on. It not just that it trains you, but when you stand up before a judge in a virtual courtroom and the questions start coming, it forces you to think at your feet, improvise, innovate, and then you realize that however much you had prepared for this matter over the last day, weeks, or months, it's still not enough. There's somebody on the other side of the table who has a unique insight that you've managed to miss out on. And that is what brings out the best in you. So as a lawyer, this is what excites me most, and it should excite everybody the most, because that is how you keep getting better. It's a journey in self-improvement. Not just, yes, you have to be financially sound, but you also have to get better at anything and everything that you do. And the range of work that you get as a lawyer, because in an organization, whether it's a law firm, it's a corporate, the work tends to get monotonous over a period of time. Because for an organization, from their point of view, if you've already been working on something or a particular area of law for the last 2, 3, 4 years, then you've developed a certain familiarity and specialization in it. And it doesn't make sense from an organizational perspective to shuffle you around unless it's burning you out. So they would want you to stick to the work, and the work may get repetitive and boring after a point in time. But as a lawyer, one day I am doing a corporate law matter. The other day it's a tax matter. Third day, somebody comes up for a mining matter. So it is very, very different. Every day is an experience. Every day is a new feeling. Every day you're appearing before a different judge who has his or her own way of evaluating things, and you can't take anything for granted in this life. So that is what I think excites me most in terms of challenges that life as a lawyer presents. In terms of financials, because at this stage, I think that is also what worries a lot of people. Where do you see yourself in terms of financial security? As I said, in a year and a half after resuming practice here in Allahabad, I was doing all right. And it's always gotten better with time. Hard work has no substitute, but a little bit of luck is all it takes for you to establish yourself. And once you establish yourself, Jaideep sir did say that you're only as good as your last case is. But once you establish yourself, I think your credibility gets established in the eyes of the people who matter. Your reputation precedes you, and work keeps flowing to you to an extent that you have to say no. You can't take it all on to yourself. You just can't do it all. And it's just been 13 odd years since I've started practice in Allahabad. But I think I am reaching that stage already. So financially, it is not a bad bargain at all. Yes, it is uncertain, but in the long run, as Jaideep sir said, the money that litigating lawyers make is far more than what partners in corporate law firms make. I have colleagues in law firms who are now partners, my batchmates, who are out 16 years now in a law firm, they are partners. But the money that they make, I think if a litigating lawyer continues doing as well, with the added independence and flexibility, the bargain will be much better in favor of a litigating lawyer as compared to that of a law firm partner. I see a lot of questions on, can management be done? Can anything be done after law? So let me tell you briefly what my batchmates are doing from law school. My batchmates, some of them are in the judiciary, some of them are in the foreign service, some are journalists, some went on to do their masters in IIMs, Some are partners in firms. Very few are litigating. Some are photographers. One of them is a photographer, and quite a famous one at that. So the entire field is open. You don't shut anything out. Maybe for practical reasons, if you've already done a 5-year law course, you may not want to get back to an IIT and do a BTech for 4 years and MTech, MS or MTech and a PhD after that. But practically the entire universe is open, because law to me is about human interaction, about society, about civilization. It is, yes, from the legal point of view, but it is that. It is not about being just focused only on law. So you've got a whole range of things which are open to you. You can do anything you please in life, whatever interests you. People have gone into social services, they have opened up NGOs, people are contesting elections, they are going into politics. So the entire world is open. So this is what I had to say about my experience as a lawyer in law school, having been abroad, coming back to India and seeing things. And trust me, India is where the future is. These uncertain times notwithstanding, India is where really the future is. Asad, can we open it up to questions, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've actually been looking at all the questions in the chat. So a couple of questions I have for you. Number one is, how is the idea of perhaps doing law from abroad itself instead of perhaps writing Clat or doing law from India? What if somebody actually wants to move abroad, UK or US or Canada, and do law from there directly after their 12th, and then practice there? How does that work?
See, Asad, if you have to, there are two things. One is you can do law from abroad and then you want to come back to India and practice here. The other is you do law abroad and then you want to settle down over there. The first thing is, if you want to come back to India after doing your graduation in law over there may be difficulties in the Bar Council recognizing your degree. Because also you should keep in mind, particularly with UK, the systems are different everywhere. In UK, the law course is an entry-level graduate course that people over there do right after class 12. The system there works very differently. First, you do a 3-year law course. Then there is a 2-year. If it's a law firm, then it's a 2-year training contract. Or if you want to join litigation, then there's a 2-year pupillage underneath a lawyer or a law firm in the case of a training contract. And actual day-to-day working of the law is when you pick up in those 2 years. It's like a long internship. And then after the end of 5 years, either you're made permanent or you're asked to leave and you start your own, you join some other lawyer and you start practicing over there. But it's different in the US, because in the US, the JD course is usually after graduation. They have a 4-year undergraduate course and then there's a JD course, which is equivalent to our LLB course over here. So over there, it is 4 years of undergrad plus 3 years of JD. If you want to settle abroad, it is preferable that you do your graduation from there itself, because your opportunities of finding a job are much easier. But then you have to understand that there are huge issues with visa for lawyers abroad. It is very difficult, and it is getting more difficult as we are seeing day by day to get a visa for lawyers, H1B in the case of US, or a permanent working visa in the case of UK or EU for lawyers. So if you're a citizen of that country, then yes, definitely it makes sense. Otherwise, be ready to struggle for the job market. And it's very expensive to do law over there. It's not easy. So if you're putting in that much money and you don't get a job over there, then I think you'll be in a very difficult position when you come back.
Following up on that, actually, what if somebody does law, basic graduation of law in India, and wants to apply to one of the Ivy League colleges or universities abroad, like you yourselves have done? What do these colleges look for? What are the skill sets that these colleges look for in you, and what is the procedure to make it to specifically, any college, but specifically Harvard?
I believe things have changed since the time I went and how they are today. Because the time I went, they took me straight while I was in my final year in law school in Bangalore. I was picked up for my master's at Harvard. But now they are insisting on a 2-year work experience before they pick you up for a master's course. And that is practically across all Ivy Leagues. You really have to be outstanding, really outstanding to make it through in your final year itself now. They are much stricter these days. Having said that, in terms of what are the skill sets that they are looking for and what is the procedure, there is no entrance examination for a master's course abroad. What you do have to send them over is a resume, which has to be very brief. 1 page is all they look at. The second page, they just discard. So all of it has to fit into a page. A statement of purpose and a personal statement, and sometimes have a legal essay. Added to that, your mark sheets and your recommendation letters from either, if you're in your law school, from professors, or if you've been working for 2 years, then your superiors. And what they're looking at is basically somebody who is able to express the thoughts very clearly, somebody in whom they see potential for the future. They are looking at cultivating leaders, somebody who can really stand out 15, 20 years from then, so that the name of their institution and the degree that they are conferring on you, that is well recognized and is not let down. And thirdly, when you send your package, it is actually the package that they are looking at. Everything has to tie into each other. You can't be doing 10 different things, all disconnected with each other, and hope to make it to an Ivy League. If your statement of purpose is about social sector, then your essay should be on an issue plaguing that sector. Your personal statement should be about your internships or your work in that particular field and what it has shaped you become, how it has shaped your thoughts. So the entire package is what they look at, whether the candidate has that focus, or will it be that that candidate has been doing a thing X for the last 5-7 years, and that candidate comes to an Ivy League institution and switches entirely to focus to Y. That is not something that will gel with them.
Yes, sir. And one last question, sir, to you. A lot of people have been asking that they are interested in international law, international relations, international politics, etc. And they would like to, I mean, it could be because they've done a lot of MUNs and so on and so forth, that they want to practice international law. And what does that practice international law mean? And what are the avenues that they could explore if they are interested in that particular field after the graduation?
All right, international law in itself, except for an odd Jadhav case in the ICJ, international law today is not, involved in a day-to-day environment. Yes, international law comes in if there's a civil war somewhere and there are human rights violations, war crimes, genocide, those issues are there. Or there are territory disputes, or water disputes between riparian states, then yes, generally speaking, international law can come in. But international law is very specific. Today, you'll have more international law involvement in, say, when it comes to defining your exclusive economic zone and your maritime boundaries. So that is a very focused area of law. Law of the sea is very, very focused. Similarly, international trade law, when it comes to WTO or other free trade agreements, that is where international law or international, not really international law, but international trade law comes in. So international law, generally speaking, is of limited use today, is not practiced on a day-to-day basis. But international trade law, international maritime law, international human rights law, international environmental law. If, say, you had this Vizag leak happening somewhere in the border with Bangladesh and your fumes get across to Bangladesh and people die over there. So that's about international environment law. It is very focused niche areas of international law that are being practiced today on a day-to-day basis. And to do that, you, after your basic graduation, you will have to start with working maybe in public policy avenues or public policy organizations with in these spheres. So if you're international in international trade law, you start with NGOs or policy institutions in India or abroad working in the field of international trade law. And from there, once you've gained experience there, then you make your way through to either Geneva, which is where a lot of international trade law gets handled, either directly in WTO, or there are these policy bodies in the US, in EU, in Switzerland itself, which work on the international trade area. Similarly for human rights, similarly for environmental law. So it's the same track that you'll have to follow. You can't, I wouldn't expect that straight out of law school, you can hope to get placed with the UN or with the WTO or with the UNHCR. It will be very difficult. You, at the most, you can start with an internship, and if they like your work and they have positions, then they'll take you in.
Thank you so much, Rahul sir, again for your valuable time here. I mean, I do have plenty of questions for you, but we are really short on time.
I can understand that. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for your time. And we'll have you again pretty soon again for quite a lot of future sessions.
Absolutely. Look forward to that. And anything I can help you out with, please feel free. If you've got some questions you want to send me over email, we can utilize the lockdown period. I can reply to that. And
Lots of students have been asking for your email, of course, your number also. I don't know what all you want to give out.
I think it would be better if it's centralized through Clat possible.
Yeah, that can be done. So we can ask, so all the students there can email at help@Clat possible, and we will forward your emails to Rahul.
Yeah, that'll be better.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Surabhi.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we move on with a panel discussion with Surabhi ma'am is going to conduct, and we have in this panel 3 students. We have Shivangi Jyotsna, both from NLS Bangalore, and we have Shashwat from NLU National Law University, Delhi. And they'll share their experiences as to how it is to live in those law schools, and if those expectations have matched up with their dreams, and how did they prepare for Clat. And one question that has often been asked, is there ragging in NLU? They'll answer that for you finally. And to conduct this panel, I then pass it on to Surabhi ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Asad. Thank you so much. Dear children, we have tried to answer lots and lots of your questions. I think I have personally replied to almost 100 plus queries on chat and Q&A. So please do bear with us. And if there is still something that is left unanswered, you could please email it to us or leave your numbers and we will call you. Before I invite our panelists, I want to remind you that we will get into details of preparation and stream selection in our diagnostic classes, which you can attend on Tuesday and Wednesday, because many of your queries centered around how we will prepare you, how can you manage your time, what are the courses that you should take up in 11th and 12th. So I will be answering those in detail on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So I would request you all to please sign up for the diagnostic class. You can click on the link to join these class and take a screenshot of this page, and that big link that you can see. You can also leave your number or email ID in the chat, and we will try to, and we will call you, not try to call you, we will call you and share the link with you. Right, so the screen is up there for you all to see and take a screenshot of. Now I would like all our panelists to please switch on their videos and join us here. So we have Shivangi, who's in her 3rd year at NLS Bangalore, Jyotsna, who's in her 5th year at NLS Bangalore, and Shashwat, who is in his 1st year, I think going into 2nd year, I hope so, in NLU Delhi. Yes, so as you can see, all these lovely students are here. We we thought we should get more and more of the students in, but as you can see, we are already running short on time. So very quickly, the idea behind getting students from different years was to help you understand how it is at every step in law school. They can all share their experiences with you. Jyotsna has just come back from her exchange program. I think we can focus on that. Shashwat can help you prepare better, in fact, share his experience, since it wasn't long ago that he himself was preparing with us. Shivangi too can do that. So we will try to direct questions to them on lots of fun facts in law school. Other than that, on preparation methods, and they can give you an insight of their law school life, which can help you understand what it is to be in such prestigious colleges, the law schools that you are aspiring for. So Jyotsna has to leave sharp at 2 because she has her class. As you know, law schools, like other places, are doing their online classes. So let's start off with Jyotsna. And we would like to understand what it is now that you are in your 5th year. What are the opportunities you're looking at? Are you sitting for placements? What is it that you have in mind after 5th year? And of course, a brief on your exchange program, why you took it up, how it helped you with your CV. So all this bundled into one.
Okay. Hi, hello everyone. I'm Jyotsna Singh. I got placed at Chai Legal. It's one of the firms. Last year itself, like I got a PPO placement from Chai Legal. So like 5th year, like Rahul sir pointed out, is actually the time when you unwind and you reap the benefits of the first 3 years of your hard work. So my parents sort of insisted on my taking up exchange program. I was also keen on it because they thought that this would be a good opportunity for me to get a flavor of how it is to have a higher education, like of have a foreign education. And interestingly enough, it actually helped me in deciding upon a few certain aspects of my life. For example, I wasn't unsure of going for LLM before I left from my exchange. So I went on my exchange to London, Queen Mary University of London. And I think my first exposure with the UK inspired me enough to actually want to apply for LLM, if like, obviously not right after college, but like in 3 years time. So, yes, another thing that was a takeaway for me from the exchange program was that law school gives you enough opportunity to build the kind of work ethic which I think other schools perhaps don't. So even though I was in a new education environment, I found it easy to pick up on concepts or perhaps interact with colleagues and faculty alike, because I think of the work ethic that is instilled in me by law school. So one thing that I can say in praise of all, like at least the top NLUs, is that the learning curve is extremely steep. And this is something that you realize not while you're in the process of those 5 years of education, but once you actually take a step back and away from law school and you realize how far you've come. So that is one thing. And yes, on the point of placements, I think it was pretty straightforward for me. Like I did what I had to do in the 3 years, maintain my grades, send in my CV. For me, I knew that placements was something that I was definitely looking for. It's not, I'm not so sure as to if I'd want to take corporate law like forever in my life. But as I stand at the precipice of my career, I for sure wanted to give it a shot. And another takeaway that I can talk about from my 5 years of law school is that trial and error is the way forward. So take in all the opportunities that you can, even when you are like confused as to whether or not you're worthy enough for an opportunity. I'd say that be proactive and apply, because that helps you in deciding upon your career quite a bit. For example, my all the times that I thought that I would want to take up family law as a career option, I only realized after having interned under two lawyers that no, perhaps that's not what I want to do in life. So I think trial and error is extremely important.
Thank you, Jyotsna. We would move on to Shivangi now. Shivangi, again, your experience in law school, what is it that, how did you realize, number one, that you wanted to get into law? When did you decide that? Did you decide it in the beginning? What are the subjects that you took? We will ask this question to Shashwat also. So beginning with that, and then what is it in law school? Is it same to what you thought it would be? How challenging it is, and how you are coping with the law school life?
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. A lot of the queries that I was reading in the Q&A and in the chat box said that, you know, I'm a science student and I currently gave my board this year. Do you think I have a shot? And all of those questions, I think Shashwat is also someone who's been there, done that, exactly how I had started out. So I started out as preparing for the IIT examination, and I took up the school in which you, whatever it is, the school associated program for Fiji. And at the end of class 11th, I realized that this was something that did not interest me as much, and probably something that I didn't want to engage with for the rest of my life, or even for the next 4 years of my life, or I didn't want to go to an engineering college. So I started exploring a lot of options. I started looking at the other options that there could be. And this is a question that a lot of people have asked me, that they know that they don't want to do something, but they don't know what they want to do. And the best way to figure what you want to do when you know exactly that this is a particular field that you don't want to go in, is to explore the other options. So for all of those who are in class 12 or in class 11 and haven't figured out and don't know for sure that they want to do law, I think and this is the best time to do it, just take time off the next 1 month or something, just take it off and look at the other options that you have. Speak to people who are in those particular fields, whether it's journalism, whether it's, you know, doing law, whether it's doing architecture, or whatever it is. So as and when you reach out to all these people and you understand firstly what they learn in their college and how they go on to do what they go on to do in their lives, that's how you will realize, okay, I see myself like that 10 years down the lane. So I think my first step was to talk to a lot of lawyers and a lot of law students. And a lot of my seniors who are currently in law school have been mentors to me, and it's a great feeling. So all of us are always here for you to reach out and like ask any questions that you want. The second question was how I prepared. What was it? Yeah. So the second question, also something that I think came up in the chat box, was how do you do it with class 12? And I think it's not an exam that is going to test your knowledge. It's an exam that tests your aptitude, and I think that comes with consistency and how you're practicing as much throughout the year. So I started right after the end of class 11, and I think the only thing that I did that made me that got me through the exam was that I always started writing the mocks early. So one thing which is very important is we always feel like we don't know enough and we're not going to be able to give this exam at this point in time. That's always going to be it. Even if Clat were to happen today and you were to sit down yesterday, you will never feel like you know enough. You will never feel like you know everything that's going to come in the exam. But that doesn't deter you from writing the exam in the first place. So I think every mock is a challenge that you take upon yourself, and you write it like it's going to be the final exam. So it's not the consequence if it is not going to matter. It's okay even if you get 1,000 rank or whatever in the exam. You do the analysis and then you realize in the next mock you get a better rank. So one thing is that. The other thing is a lot of people come to me, and like a lot of my juniors have asked me that, I don't like the CR part of the exam and I don't like the English part of the exam. It's very tough. I always get all the answers wrong. There's no two ways about it. You can't, there's no way you can escape that. Even if miraculously you clear the exam without, reading enough or attempting enough RCs, you're going to have a very hard time in law school, because every course and every reading requires a lot of your reading skills and your analyzing skills, which you develop while you're preparing for this exam. So it's better you learn it now than you have to face a very hard time in law school. And that's my...
Thank you, Shivangi. Please hang on. We have more questions for you. And there are lots of questions that students are pouring in. We will move on to Shashwat. So I remember I was talking about, one type of a student where where your aspiration level is that you want to go only into a top law school. So when I was telling you about confusion and you can take more exams and you can, write more tests, with this preparation, you can do management. Some students write NDA exam with the same preparation. So, you can do all of that. And there are some students who write the exam in their first attempt, are not happy with their rank or the college they are getting, and then they retake the exam. They prepare for the whole year just to get a better rank so that they can get into their dream law schools. So that is what I remember of Shashwat Chandra. He took his exams again alongside class 12, wasn't happy with the college he was getting. I think he cleared even the Symbiosis entrance test and everything, but he wanted to go only into the top law schools. So with his next attempt, he got Nalsar and he got NLU Delhi. He chose NLU Delhi and he's currently studying in NLU Delhi. So Shashwat is one such student, and we can probably ask him about how he kept himself motivated with a 1-year preparation, because he wasn't happy with his rank in the previous year. He could have easily joined the college. So we will focus on that part of the preparation, while Shivangi, of course, spoke about boards alongside the Clat preparation. Shashwat took a 1-year preparation to better his rank. So the risk that he took, and now that he is in NLU Delhi. And once he has answered this question, we can of course go into law school life, and both of them can describe what all they are doing in law school other than academics. Shashwat, over to you.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Am I audible? So the difference between my journey and Shivangi's is basically that I was not that focused in class 12. I mean, I did not know exactly what I wanted to do. That's why I had to, when I was clear as to what my goals are, I took that drop year, and that was a big step, but that really helped me in later stages. So I was also a PCM student, and I was also preparing for my engineering entrances in class 11. Although it did not interest me very much, but it was the norm of the day. Everyone was going for these JEE examinations at that time, so I was also in the race. But a mentor of mine, Aditya, at that time was a very close friend of mine. Who was preparing for these law entrance exams at that time. He was also at Clat and now he's at NLS Bangalore. So he introduced me to this field of law, and I was fascinated when I used to talk to him about it. And I wanted to pursue this field, but honestly, I did not have the courage to do that at that time because it was a big step. I mean, I had asked my parents to enroll me in an engineering entrance, and I was getting home tuitions for different PCM subjects and schools. So it was a lot, but that's why I did not have the courage to do that at that time. But so I gave my engineering test at that time, but also registered for the Clat examination just in case. And by the time the engineering entrances got over, I got through some of them. I got through BitSat and Symbiosis and a couple of them. But that was the time I wondered if I really want to spend 4 years of my life doing something I don't really want. So that was the time I told my parents that, okay, I'm not interested in this and I really want to pursue law. So I'm very glad that my father at that time helped me enroll at CP without asking any questions. And that's how my drop year started. Now, a drop year is a very, very challenging time, I must say, because you have the pressure of the step that you have taken. It's essentially your only chance. I mean, it feels like that at that time, but so you know how much pressure it is. But also, you have ample amount of time to lighten that pressure with your work. It all depends on your will and hard work at that time. Just listening to the teachers, the mentors, consistent practice, taking mocks, hounding your teachers for doubts. I mean, I remember my time at CP, it was 2 hours of classes and 2 hours disturbing Survi ma'am in a room. So that's how my days used to go at CP. And I say this because I have a lot of friends who are preparing with me, and those who used to follow this same schedule with a couple of changes here and there are in a top law school right now. But those who slacked a little, did not analyze their mocks properly, they had to struggle a bit when the results came out. So, well, I'm no expert on how to conduct myself in law school and everything about it. I'm just a rookie first year student. So I thought that's what I should tell the students who are aspiring for this exam, because that's what something I know happens. So there's that. And about NLU Delhi, well, I wanted to say this as well, because this was something that struck me. I was extremely nervous during my orientation in college when they started telling us about the facilities of the college, the library, the placement figures, judiciary, ADR, modes and achievements and all of that. And it was all very intimidating as to, will I be able to live up to this name for 5 years? But when I was wondering that, that's when our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ranveer Singh, came on stage and he said that all the people who did all of these things were intimidated like us and came from amongst us. So it is not that some person came out of the blue, was extraordinary, who did all of this. So that's what struck me, because I remember when I used to attend classes at CP, our GK mentor Sanjay sir used to tell us about his students who were at NLS and Nalsar and NLU Delhi, and we used to feel very intimidated as to, will we be able to do that? Then again, he used to say the same thing, that these people also came from where you guys are sitting. They also prepared for GK, they also prepared for legal, English, and all the same subjects. So today, when I'm here in this college, I just want to say that to the aspirants that this is not a Herculean task to get here. It is just will and hard work and following a teacher's advice. So essentially, that's why you're here, and that's how it happens.
So we have lots of questions pouring in. I think whoever wants to take up can take up. Number one is preparation for GK. Whoever feels like giving some tips and how to manage. So maybe Chandra can do that, and Shivangi can take up how to manage Feb and March, which is a tough time, which will next year be a tough time for the kids who are going to give boards as well as the exam. So GK followed by Feb and March, where everything, all hell breaks loose. Your exams are there, your boards are there, and you are, completely ripped apart. So we can start with GK. And of course, Arjun Pratap has been after us to tell us about ragging. So did you guys get ragged at law school? What are the law school norms with respect to ragging?
Okay.
We can
so
take all these.
Firstly, yeah, sure. All right. So coming to GK first, I mean, GK was always my favorite section because in a very less amount of time, you can gain a lot of marks in that section. So the good thing about GK is it's also not very difficult to prepare it, because all you have to do is make sure that you read the modules and magazines that are provided by the coaching institute. if you are thoroughly done with it, I advise that you go out on your own, read newspapers, go on websites, search for factoids that you think can be essential, and note them down on your own. I mean, a notebook of your own, making notes of those compendiums, those modules, and those factoids will be very beneficial, because when you write them down, you essentially ingrain them into yourself. So every Sunday, I can say every Saturday or Sunday, you can just sit down with the modules, study them, write, make your own notes, and the next day just revise them. And the next time when you're trying to make the same notes, just revise the notes you have made previously. This way, you will automatically remember everything that has happened in the last year. And when you get to the exam, once you see the options, you can very easily take your answers, and in 8 to 10 minutes, you can get done with it. I remember in my flat paper, it took me 8 minutes to do all the questions, and I got a couple of them wrong. So that was a good statistics according to me, and the same with the aided paper. So GK is essentially an easy section if you constantly work with it.
Shivangi, the last 2 months, can you remember your time and then maybe help these children?
Yes, absolutely. So Shashwat said GK was his favorite part. I think GK was the most terrifying part for me, and that was something that I always lost on marks on. But that's the thing, that I think until January, I used to give all my mocks without preparing for GK. And because I had boards to write, pre-boards to write, and all of that. And I used to give all my mocks without GK, and I used to, not get the best of ranks that I wanted and I was working for. And I thought, it can be done at the end and all of that. But I think mid boards, I realized that this is not going to be a day. This is not something that I can do in a week. This is not something I'm going to be able to do in 5 days. So that's when I actually, it's not like I was totally ignoring it, but yeah, I wasn't doing as much as I was in the other sections. So one important thing that I think I didn't do, and I think everyone should, is there is no important section in the exam. There is no, it's not like, maths is negligible, even if it's 15 marks. There's no just English and just CR or just legal. Every section is equally important, and you have to give it the time that's required. So like Shashwat said that he made a notebook. I think this is something that is the minimum effort that all of us can put. And even when you're going to sleep, like just 10 minutes of your day just before you're going to sleep, just write 2 lines about what, the news is, and probably like 5 words that you learned today. And that's all. Get up in the morning. Like I used to have bus rides to my school, which were like 40 minutes every day. And I think all those bus rides, I used to like, try to learn words and understand and, read. So little things, here and there is something that you need to develop. And it's something that you have to ingrain in your everyday lives. It's not like you're going to sit one day and learn the whole dictionary. That's not going to happen. So Feb and March was particularly, very hectic, because I had science subjects to do. I had physics, chemistry, math, and computer science. And at that point in time, I remember having a conversation with Surbhi ma'am, and she was like, Shivangi, if you've done enough throughout the year, even if you take a month break, it's not like you're going to forget everything after that. So I think until board started, I was at least doing the minimum that I could to even with respect to Clat. Even when I was giving my pre-boards, 1 hour in a day is not a lot. It's not asking too much. You can take that out and give that much time even when you're writing your pre-boards. And during your boards, it's fine if you just prepare for your boards. And right after your boards, you get started, you have 2 more months to prepare for the exam. So it's not like the things that you learned in the last 8 months you're going to forget in that 1 month. It's a skill-based, aptitude-based test. You're nothing you're going to forget. So you just have to be consistent throughout the year.
Yes. So one thing that I remember for Shivangi was that without GK, also she was doing her aptitude part very well, very consistently. And without GK, this girl was still coming in the top 10 of our mocks. And then when she started with GK, she made slow progress. But soon, by the time her boards were over, GK was something that she had mastered. So yes, you must follow what the advice that she is giving you. And of course, coming back to what Shashwat was saying, the important thing which I noticed with all these students who are in top law schools is that they constantly made their own notes. So please learn up the material that we provide you, but at the same time, read up. Reading now is going to help you even in the reading section, reading comprehension section. And of course, finally, as Shashwat was saying, the 2 hours you spend with us, great. After that, you have to sit, study, go to your teachers for doubts. It's quite another matter that with these children, Shashwat and all, I was so happy when they made it because they made my life a living hell. They were constantly hounding me every time, they needed to eat some food and all. They would come with doubts whenever they had no doubts also, trust me, just to attack my food. But I was so happy that they made it because then I got some space to work, so they just kept, they keep hounding you. So then I pray that you make it to law school. So that's the way you have to get in, you have to hound me and then I will keep praying day and night, please send them to law school because I cannot handle them anymore. So that's how they make it. And quick question on ragging and law school life. Uh, so whatever, as in, is there ragging? Are you friendly with seniors? So
I mean, the seniors are very friendly when you go to law school. I mean, the first couple of months they'll try to intimidate you a little with a little interaction and all, but it's all very friendly and like very harmless. And then they try to, once you develop a camaraderie with them, they are very helpful in your academics, your moots, your debates, and all. They give you very good advice. They hook you up with internships and all. So I won't say there's ragging, but you have to be respectful to your seniors, of course, because they do help you out in the long run.
Jokes aside, but genuinely, I feel like every law school and every, why we want to be in the top law schools of the country is one reason why, because you have the kind of environment that you have in these law schools is something that you're not going to get in every school. And I think irrespective of, in the first few weeks, we're just new to the place and, you're just intimidated by everything. And I think that's also there, that there are a few seniors that are going to help you out genuinely. And they're going to be there at every step of your law school life. So you have any query, you reach out to them. Even if it's, I just want to get my project topic changed. What do you think is a good thing I should write about? It's just as simple as that. And they're your support system, like faculty is there, right? But if you don't have the kind of people around you, you're not going to do anything. And like, everyone spoke about mooting and debating and all of that, and the whole learning process that law school is. I just want to add a little point. I think I've realized this in the lockdown, because, we all just crib about where we are and the grass is always greener on the other side. But I think at this point in time, I'd be nowhere else but where I am. And this learning process, it's a learning process, but law school is also a huge unlearning process of what we've done in the last, 18 years of our life. And I feel like all these courses that I do, even humanities courses like sociology, political science, and history, these courses teach us so much that we don't know. Like, the other day, there was this YouTube interaction with our VC, Dr. Sudhir Krishnaswamy, and there were students who had commented, that I'm going to remove reservation and all of that. We understand where you're coming from, and we understand that you don't know a lot of it. But law school is the kind of place that you'll have the kind of exposure to understand why there are things that are there. So I think that process of unlearning is very, very important, and that's why you should definitely go to law school.
And that's a very relatable thing. I mean, there were a lot of things that I learned in law school which made me realize, wow, I have been so wrong for the past years. I mean, every page, every book you read, you realize that what has been the problem here and there. So that's very nice.
There is one question on what if you are not able to crack the exam. And though my answer to it would be that you should try again. This is one college, this is one exam that I think it deserves another chance, because we do give another chance to all the IIT exams and the civil services. So what if I'm not able to crack it? So maybe we can take your opinion on this. and of course what you guys are planning for the future. There were some questions on PCSJ and judicial internships and all. So maybe one of you can take up those if you're looking at civil services or judicial services. And the other, of course, on is it worth it? Should we give it another try? Of course, Shashwat has given it another try to better his rank and everything. But maybe one last this thing on that.
Yeah, well, about taking a second chance. I mean, since I was not so focused, my focus was on engineering entrances and not on the Clat exam. That's why when I gave it in class 12th, I did not get a very good law school. So, well, if you do not succeed in your attempt, then you can just imagine that maybe you were not that focused that time. So taking a second chance where you develop that focus, where you realize that you will have to give some level of dedication this time, you will definitely get through. I mean, you have to realize that it is a constant work of dedication. I mean, for me, it was letting Netflix not see me for a while. Instagram can come later. I did not watch the Avengers movie when it came out because it was so close to the A-Lit exam. You have to sacrifice your relationships. And yeah, I mean, you have to do that so that you benefit from it. And definitely it's very beautiful when you get there and you realize that all your hard work has paid off. So taking a second chance is nothing to be ashamed of. That's what I think. I mean, when I was in my drop year, I used to think that people would mock me, people would think ki samay barbaad kar raha hai apna, and but it doesn't work that way. Once you get there, once your hard work pays off, everyone will realize that what we have achieved, you will realize that what we have achieved is something very beautiful.
I forgot what was the other question.
There were questions on judicial services, civil services.
Yeah, so I think I don't, like Jyotsna said, that you know, she didn't know if she's going to continue in the corporate world all her life, but she knew that once she got out of college, that's something that she wanted to do. I think once I get out of college, I do want to give that a shot. And there are a lot of things that I want to do for the next 3 years that I have in college. And most of it is, you know, experiencing everything, just, you know, going for internships of different kinds, writing on stuff that, you know, intrigues me. So it's okay to not have your life figured out, you know, right at the beginning of your law school life. Just take that time to explore things that might interest you. I mean, I started out thinking that, you know, public international law might interest me. It does, but it's not the only thing that interests me. There are 1,000 other things. There are 1,000 other avenues that you must, you know, go and try. So it's exactly what Jyotsna says. It's a matter of trial and error, and that's when you figure out what you want to do. Shashwat, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, before I joined law school, I always thought that corporate was the only way to go to earn some big bucks and, you know, make my way into the law world. But after joining school and after realizing how many avenues are there and what corporate might just not interest me. Maybe I want to sit for UPSC exams. Maybe I want to continue and establish myself as a litigating lawyer. So, I mean, and my friends and seniors in third year, fourth year, they are not very sure as to what they want to do. So I think taking your time and once you get into law school, you can take your time and realize and understand what you actually want to do. And I think there is a lot of time in law school for you to realize that and understand that. So don't worry about that right now. That's what I'll say to people.
Thank you so much, guys. It was a very engaging talk with all of you. And I want to tell our students and aspirants that all these people are constantly in touch with us and they will be happy to help you. And if there are queries for them, we can forward it to them. And, you know, you can talk to them, email them, so they can help you out better with their experience. Of course, this one interaction was just like an ice-breaking session. I'm sure you have many more questions for them. So please make sure that you email them. So thank you so much. I would like to ask all of you to please come for our demo class. Whether you give it one try or two, doesn't matter, but at least take the first correct step towards your journey towards law school or to your career. So these are the demo batch dates, and you can also, and our batch date is from 16th May. I would like to call Asad on to please give the EndNote address and maybe take up the last couple of queries that there could be.
Sure. All right. Thanks a lot, ma'am. And thanks a lot for everyone. Number one, for attending this session and spending about 3 hours with us. I hope you've learned a lot with everything that all the panelists and the speakers have told us. Thank you mostly, to Jaideep sir for spending his valuable time with us. Thank you to Rahul sir for helping us out with a lot of queries and also giving some perspective with regard to international education. And also thanks again to Akash, who also spoke about life at law school, and Jyotsna and Shivangi and Sashwat. It was really nice to have you all, and hopefully we'll see you again and again whenever we do these seminars, right? So these are the details on your screen right now. The demo dates are given to you. It's Tuesday and Wednesday. You have 2 classes that you can attend. You simply have to register. That's the link that is that you see there. bit.ly/CP new class. That's the link. Go there. Please register for that. The registration is free. You can take both demo classes, and if you obviously like them and would like to continue, you can enroll for any of the courses. And the next batch is starting on the 16th of May. You have the days and timings of the batch and the classes that will be held also. And then there is the helpline number that you see. It says call at, and you have the helpline number there. Call on the helpline number if you have any queries with regard to anything that you want to know about Clat or law schools or courses at Clat possible and timings and all the mentoring, etc. If you don't want to call us, you could also email us at sales@clatpossible.com and your queries will be replied within hours. Okay, so do note the link, do note the helpline number, do note the email address, and you can get all these details again on the website itself on www.clatpossible.com. So it's been quite a session. I'm pretty sure, I hope you're not tired, but if there are any specific questions, then perhaps you could take them right now before we close the session down for the day. Okay. Arjuna is asking for the number. You have the helpline number there. Arjuna, please, you could call up the helpline at any point of time if you want to, and also email us there. Any other question? I see quite a lot of questions. In fact, I see more than 500 questions, and I don't really think I'll be able to answer, quite most of these questions here. Right. Somebody's asking me, is sitting for JAG a good option? Judge Advocate General. Well, that's definitely a good option. Yes. If you want to join the army and serve the country in that particular manner, you could do that. It's a 2-stage exam that you'll have to take. There is a psychological test that happens, and then there is a test on the subject of law. You clear that and you can join the army as a lawyer. You will represent the army at court martials. Whenever there are proceedings at court martials, you represent the army as a Judge Advocate General. Okay. Fees and demo classes, again, please call up the helpline for this thing. Somebody's asking me law for women. Is that a good option? I wish one of our panelists had answered that, but yes, it is. In fact, you'll be really surprised that at least in my batch or in my college, and I'm pretty sure this is true for NLS or NU Delhi also, the majority of the batch is actually women. The girl students form the majority and the boys, in fact, are minority. This is the trend. Yes, there are very few batches here and there where you will see the boys have a higher population, but law increasingly is opening up for women. I know that it's often seen as institutionalized patriarchy when it comes to law, because most of the judges are men and most of the senior advocates are men, but things are changing, and perhaps you can be the change. Rather, instead of waiting for that to open up, you can start the change on your own and be a successful lawyer. We do have quite a lot of women succeeding there, and it seems like the barrier of gender is coming down, and hopefully it will come down pretty soon. Ali? Okay, change in pattern, etc. We will discuss in our demo classes again, and all the programs and so on and so forth also will be on the website. So do go to the website clatpossible.com and you'll get all the other details. So thanks a lot for the 3 hours that you spent with us. I hope this session was fruitful. We'll see you again often in the classrooms as well. And we apologize for not being able to answer all the questions. You can imagine how hectic this would have become if we actually did that with more than 1,000 people in the session. So thank you again, and I'll see you soon. Have a nice day. Take care and do stay safe. Thank you so much.